All right, then. We're now live. It's a Creators Talking stream, episode 11, and we haven't done one for a while, so I thought get the gang back together and have a good laugh. First of all, joining us, we've got artist extraordinaire, Peter.
Hi.
Next, we've got tech scribe, tech expert, and the disappointed father tone whenever he talks to me about it. It's Wombat.
Good morning, everybody.
And finally, it's a welcome return to the silver-haired, smooth-voiced, good-looking bastard that is Scott.
Oi, you fucking cunts.
Hey, that's cultural appropriation.
Yeah,
I know, right? I thought you'd like that.
I thought it was cultural appreciation these days.
That's right, you fucking cunts.
Usually we do live streams at the end of every year to talk about the releases and so forth of games, movies, comics, whatever. But because the streams got so big because of the amount we had to talk about, we're splitting them up to 2 a year now, so we could kind of have lives more. And we'll start with gaming this time round because it's much going on so far this year with gaming. But we'll start with the sad news that Total Biscuit, otherwise known as John Bain, sadly lost his battle with cancer and passed away. His videos on YouTube were something, weren't they, when it came to breaking down games and whether they were worthy of purchase, do you think?
Yeah, they were.
And yeah, he was very pro-consumer, and he really did sort of walk the walk, as it were. He's, the gaming community is lesser for having lost him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, here's the thing about Biscuit. I appreciate so much of what he did. Obviously, I spoke about it extensively on Twitter. I think when he passed, and even prior to that, I'd done sporadically. But the thing is, though, as much as I liked him, he was a bit long in the tooth, as they say. His format was great. He covered every bit of minutia concerning every aspect of the games, and it was. Sometimes it was good, but other times I'm like, okay, that's cool, man. Just maybe, tighten it up a little bit. So while I did appreciate what he was doing, obviously, like when it came to, advocating for consumers, for gamers in general, I thought it was great. But sometimes it was just like, just to be completely honest, it's just like, sometimes it's a little bit hard to watch some of his stuff because it was kind of long. But no, he was really a great advocate, though. He was somebody that really actually gave a fuck and wasn't swayed by trends or social groups or, any of the other kind of things that we see becoming dominant factors in the way games are being marketed or played or covered within the quote unquote press. So, he was an original. He was somebody that his voice, I don't think his voice can be replaced, honestly. I don't think there's anybody out there that's doing anything comparable or even has the love or dedication that he did. So, it's tough.
I mean, he did do some legendary videos. I mean, I remember seeing the one about DayZ, where his character was killed by the invisible man wearing a backpack. Obviously, the Day One Gary's incident. But my favorite will always be the highlights from his Ride to Hell Retribution stream.
Oh god, I remember that.
Where he's playing it, and then the bike in front of him glitches and just takes off like it's being beamed up by a spaceship. And then and then his reaction to I can't call them sex scenes, but replace those words with whatever you feel like. But when he just sits there and he just starts laughing his head off, it was brilliant. So God bless him for those videos, because I'm sure I'll watch them again at some point. But sadly,
I also enjoy with TV is that he'd give any and every game a fair shake.
Yes,
he'd go through it, he would pick it apart, but he'd be fair about it. So if it was a good game that was fairly rough around the edges, he'd say it's still worth a look, or he'd make it very clear of the case that there's rough around the edges and there's just complete crap. He'd make that clear distinction, because there was quite a few games he pointed out that they could use a bit more bug fix and whatnot, but for what they were a decent go of a game.
But also, I fondly remember his interview on the David Pacman show during the height of Gamergate, because of all the folks that Pacman had on there to talk, I think his was the best interview, because he sort of weighed up the whole pros and cons of it whilst giving some insight into being a games critic.
Yeah, he was. The thing that was good about him is that he wasn't attached to a side per se. He was attached to the facts. He was attached to like, this is what happened. This is why it happened. This is why these things are happening now as a result of that. You know, he kind of, like you said, he kind of broke it down and went through kind of, piece by piece and gave a very, very clinical, I guess, appraisal of what was going on. You know, he approached it in the manner of somebody who is a, in this day and age, it's a fucking few and far between, but a journalist, somebody practicing journalism. And otherwise you get people that they have a dog in the race per se. And like, well, you attacked my side and you hate women. It's just all a bunch of emotional bullshit. And he's just like, okay, well, this is what happened. This is why it happened. This is what's going to happen next. This is what we need to change, so on and so forth. So it's great when you have somebody that can speak objectively about something and not get so involved that they let their fucking heart on for whatever side or whatever cause or whatever they have. It's like he's just like, all right, these are the facts. Like he's like fucking Dragnet, like just the facts, man, just the facts. Fucking shit like that.
But sadly, his passing, certain individuals didn't wait for him to be buried before they started dancing on his grave. Josh McIntosh, Arthur Chu, Leigh Alexander were a few that were seen openly celebrating.
Suspects.
Yeah,
and someone we will likely talk about later in this stream.
Yeah, and even David Crooks, a now former dev of David Crooks, a former BioWare dev,
right?
Who tweeted, "I must be feeling great now. Maybe it's these running shoes. Oh no, wait, Total Biscuit died. These acts don't grind themselves." It was very nasty.
Yeah, I remember. I had words with him.
Yeah, but then
he bitched out. Surprise, surprise.
The tweets were deleted and his account made private, and Casey Hudson, fair play to him, stepped in later on and expressed disappointment at seeing this from someone who used to be with BioWare, and obviously tweeted his own condolences to John's family. Fair enough if you don't like someone, I get that, but Jesus Christ, at least wait till they're in the fucking ground before you start going on about them. I mean, God.
Well, even a very good show of the character of a lot of these people. And just how quick they are to latch onto someone's misery just to boost themselves and make themselves feel like, look at me, look at this horrible person. Aren't I great?
Yes.
Yeah.
This
you are the lowest of the low.
Yeah, and this kind of segues into the next bit, which I think Wombat's probably waiting for. The conduct of the Guild Wars dev on Twitter this very week. Wombat, I'll let you take over here.
Yes. The short version for everyone is that you had a dev for Guild Wars who was having a open discussion on Twitter about writing dialogue trees for characters. And she basically inferred that she didn't want to give players too much freedom. And the inference from that was she didn't want them having incorrect opinions, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Wow. I missed this one.
Some people. The dev's name was Jessica Price. Now, she was one of the ones who had been openly shooting on TB when he passed away.
Yep.
So I think she was on thin ice anyway. She then.
She basically called this guy like rather derogatory names, including calling him an asshat, while the person was remaining very polite in their back and forth.
Yeah.
And apparently the head owner of Arena Games, which is Guild Wars 2, did not appreciate her behavior, nor the fact that another one of his employees came into bat for her to basically white knight. They both were essentially told, pack up your shit, you're gone. You do not speak to our... it's basically, you do not speak to our players and our customers that way. We're here about our players and improving our game, not shitting on them. And he was really not happy.
That's awesome. It's about time somebody stepped up and said something.
It was. Everyone...
For too long, we've had people who are going on social media in places like Facebook and Twitter and all this kind of thing and talking so much shit. And it's like, I remember a time where you couldn't do that. There was part of your business contract that you could not do that sort of thing. And
technically some companies still is, but
I know.
Forcing it.
Right, they're not enforcing it. That's kind of what I was getting to. Is like that they're not really putting the screws to people about this sort of thing. It's like, and when you're running a company, you can't afford to have people like that. It's like, sure, you can believe whatever you want, but fucking keep your mouth shut when it comes to talking about things that, you know, can potentially affect the company and potentially affect other people's jobs. You know, because this very well can affect other people's jobs very quickly. You know, it's
a case in point, the idiot who went into bat before I got fired too.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And this is case in point of, if you're gonna run your mouth, or in this case, run your sticky little fingers on your keyboard, don't do it with using an account that has your company name plastered all over it.
Yeah. Because even though some of these social media accounts say tweets my own views or something like that,
right,
I still think you're representing the company in some way when you do that.
You are.
Oh, when you invoke them, you absolutely are. When you put their name out there, you absolutely are, unequivocally.
That's why the people especially with this, people will be making the point of have the distinction of having a separate private account where you want to run your shit versus your account which is attached to the company with the company name anywhere on it.
Right. Exactly. I just think it's fucking tacky as fuck. It's just like, you know, cool, have your opinions. Don't like people, don't like certain things.
Yeah.
But keep your fucking mouth shut. Keep it to yourself, because when you like, if I was a business owner and I employed people that started putting my business at risk, you damn well better be sure that you're going to get shit canned. Because when you start fucking with my money, you know, sorry, you got to go. You know, plain and simple.
Especially these days with Guild Wars themselves, you know, their player base has kind of been evaporating away for various reasons. So, you know, when you're having controversies like that, and the thing is, I am sure the boss was sitting there watching that Twitter exchange, and it's not even that people were being aggressive or any sort of rude with it. The guy, he literally said, "I slightly disagree," and she literally started crying, mansplaining, and everyone's just like, "Oh dear God!"
Yeah. Of course. But you know what? I've actually come up with a term for this, and I was going to save it till later. But I've come up with a term for this, and it's called the Veruca Salt Cultural Revolution. It's what we're seeing. and I had this epiphany last night about this. Yeah. Basically, what you know, I'm sure we're going to be addressing this when it comes to the movies and comic stuff here shortly. But when it comes to games too, it very much applies to this. And what it is, you have these groups of people that think they are entitled to have what they want right fucking now because they can scream loudly on social media. And it's like, I want it. I'm entitled. I'm Veruca. It's mine. I should have it. You know,
and the rest of the gaming community is more or less just watching them go down the garbage chute.
Yeah, but it's like you look at these people. They don't want to put the work in. They don't want to put the time in. They don't want to have to build anything. They just want all of it immediately, right now. It has to be theirs because
they want the money. They want the money and fame. They don't want to do the hard yak to actually earn it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've talked about this a ton of times before when we've done this before. But I just came up with the idea of the Veruca Salt Cultural Revolution last night. So.
Oh dear.
Well, in her case, she got everything she deserved because she's a well-known person for slinging shit like this, and the game devs are now reaping the rewards of removing her and her little sycophant because you know, Reddit normally very infamous for being like shit-slingy, pissing on people, and generally a lot of SJW bullshit sneaking in. Apparently, the Guild Wars forum was going gangbusters with how excited everyone was that she got fired along with that guy. How great it was, praising them up and down for doing it, and basically going, "Awesome! What's next? What can we expect from you guys? This is so great."
Oh God! Well, one event that came up in gaming this year was the Bully Hunters. I'm not going to call it an event.
I forgot about that.
I'm going to call it a shit show.
God.
This was supposed to be, if I remember correctly, an hour-long show where they would show how to deal with quote-unquote bullies in online multiplayer games. I think the extreme in the event was something like
themselves.
Yeah. And I think in the event it lasted something like half an hour, and
it lasted almost an hour in total. I mean, but
it was about 45 minutes, I think, when they finally killed it.
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, and the general feeling was that it?
Yeah. It's like, really? This is what was all hype was about? Okay, sure thing.
Yeah,
good job.
Because I remember seeing a bit of it where the announcer goes, "And now a bully hunter has entered the game." And he's like, "Yeah."
Oh yeah.
They identify the player, and then the bully hunter, quote unquote, kills him. You think, so that's him learning a lesson, is it? Are you what?
Yeah, and then they type in the chat, "You've been bully hunted."
Yeah.
Also, everyone just calling it out, going, "That's not how online gaming works, numbnuts."
Oh, you know, it's great though. The internet detectives went to work immediately, and they fucking found these people's Steam profiles and found that they were, like Wombat said, they were hunting themselves. They were literally playing on 2 accounts, doing a thing that looks, you know, questionable, and then they switched accounts and went after the person that they were playing before. Oh my god, it's so cringy, so bad. It's like, oh god. I don't even
responses, the whole, go back to the kitchen, make me a sandwich.
Oh yeah. Oh god, yeah. You could tell they probably written them down on a piece of paper somewhere before they were going to write them down on Gamecast. So they got them stored.
Oh, you know what the thing was though? They kept doing the thing with the guy. You get back in the kitchen, make me a sandwich, right? They kept showing the footage, right? And the footage would have a different name. They'd say, "Oh, we found another bully," and it would be a different name, but it was always the same fucking dude's voice every single time. I'm like, do you really expect anybody to believe this? This is fucking ridiculous.
I found it funny from the corporate side. Like, I felt sorry for the headphone manufacturer, because remember one of the things were these headphones, SteelSeries headphones with like a little feminist icon. I think SteelSeries got horribly played in that regard, and they genuinely misrepresent. And just seeing the corporate PR scrabble afterwards when they realized how badly they'd been screwed, and it got within about a day, it's just like, we're taking legal action.
That was great. Yeah, that thing
company behind it was just, everyone's just going, oh, it's that marketing company, and they apparently had a history
of creating things like that.
The crew from Adland but Mark Kern mentioned this, because this ad company had previously, when he worked for Blizzard, Blizzard approached this ad company to do a campaign, and the company came up with the most cringy campaign that was essentially focused, I think it was something, I have to look it up, but it was something like essentially bullying nerds. And he's like, no, this is the opposite of what we want. What the fuck is wrong with you guys? And then proceeded to kick them out the door.
It was a case of bullying nerds and basically making sort of innuendos towards like how gays would never play something like this because it's manly game, right? I'm not kidding. That's the shit that they were laying out there.
Lovely.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to gaming releases this year, it's all been pretty average stuff, except for one which needs special mention. Not only because it was a decent game, but it was also a successful Kickstarter, and that was, of course, Kingdom Come Deliverance.
I have it.
Yeah. Now, what I think, okay, one about take over here. What do you think of it?
Peasant Simulator. Kingdom Come Deliverance was done by Polish Development Studio. It copped a lot of shit from the usual circles for not having, enough people of color, blah 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 blah. It's set
not
in
having
medieval.
Any.
Yeah, it's set in medieval Poland. Of course, it won't. But it's genuinely good. I mean, the running gag is just it's medieval peasant simulator. And I've played it. It was a bit rough. It had some, from what I would call a AA studio.
Yeah, it's a pretty small studio.
Small studio, but it was a genuinely good game. It's got praised up and down by people who matter. It's actually being now used to help teach history of that time.
Yeah,
that's how much detail the devs went into it. So, look, it's just been like I know a lot of people basically what I call hate backed it. Because everyone, the various crowds were saying, "Oh, we hate this," so like we're gonna hate back it, like is happening with a couple of other comics, which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
But it turned out to be a genuinely successful Kickstarter. It was well managed, well communicated.
I think it was something like 300 odd percent funded. Yeah.
Yeah. And there were delays, but again, there was no radio silence when that happened. It was a case of, there's been delays. We've got some technical issues. Here's the updated timeline. Project management and games programming is hard. But it got there in the end. No, again, it's basically what it comes down to. It's just like this shit can be difficult to do. So sometimes timelines have to be moved.
The thing that I admired about this game the most was you couldn't just pick up a sword and fight someone. You couldn't just ride a horse. You had to learn how to do this stuff in the game.
Yeah.
And some of the Steam reviews literally made me nearly wet myself laughing. There was one. What was it? Got spat on by a noble. 10 out of 10 would do again. What was the other one? Pick the pockets of my dead parents and net a pretzel in the rain. This is fucking brilliant. This is reasons like that.
There was one I saw. It's like essentially, approached town drunkard, got beaten up, broke into his house, stole onions, used onions to buy got caught by guards, burned to death in prison. This was a tutorial.
Yeah. That's why reasons like this, you just can't beat a good customer review because they will be brutally honest whether it's good or bad. And ones like this, of course, you can't knock. But of course, there were obviously folks that refused to cover this game for obvious reasons.
Oh yeah,
I think Giant Bomb said they won't cover it. I can't remember the news agency, but Patrick Klepek wrote a piece about why he wasn't going to cover it. Yeah, I can't remember his name. Sorry, bad term. And it just made me laugh all the more because thinking, you people don't matter anymore. Have you not realized this?
Oh, and what's his name? Nathan Grayson, I think, even came out and said Kotaku won't be covering this game because we're morally opposed to it or some bullshit fucking.
Yeah, and everyone just like, oh, really, Grayson? Where are your morals when Zoe's gargling your nuts?
Yeah. Oh, hey there.
Oh,
like, all right, you just go write Kotaku. Go write your fucking 10 reasons that fucking Wiimotes will fit in your asshole or whatever the fuck you're gonna write this week. So,
with their responses, everyone's like, "And we care why."
Yeah, no, I think you hit it on the head though, Justin. Is that they don't matter? I mean, they don't. No. You're looking at an industry like if I guess we would call it an industry. It's failing miserably and it's dying quickly because there's no news left. They're just fucking bloggers. They're just bloggers writing op-eds all the time that don't matter and nobody wants it anymore.
Speaking of failure, remember how all the Gawker crowd got bought up by Univision?
Yeah.
Yeah, Univision has now spun them all off into a different department and is trying to sell them. That information came out in the last couple of days. So
was that like a year?
Really? Yeah.
Or did that take them about a year, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So they've basically dung beetled them up into this little ball of shit and they're trying to get rid of them.
But it reminds me earlier in the year where some ex-Gawker staff did a Kickstarter to try and buy back a chunk of the business and it failed miserably. It was like, bye.
Nobody cares about this. The only people that loved Gawker were the assholes that were getting paychecks from them. Nobody else gives a fuck. Please.
Yeah, and it just proves case of no one ever liked you, no one ever wanted you, and you just reinforced that fact by basically showing that even though you can't get it through your thick heads, you try to pull all this stuff, there's people out there that are fans of us, we know there are. Really? Those fans clearly didn't want to back you up there now, did they?
See you there, friend.
Yeah, it's like, so you're not quite as out there and relevant and important as you think you are.
People love us. Fuck you guys. Sure they do.
So we'll move on to comics now then. A few amusing stories have happened this year alone. First off was one that we'll start with this week as a smaller story. DC decides to
Justin,
yes,
we got before we do anything, we got to pay respects to Steve Ditko.
Oh yes, of course. I should have mentioned this. Creator of Spider-Man passed away. Very sad. I remember seeing a lot of his artwork in various magazines because some of his comics were so expensive. But yeah, may he rest in peace.
90 years old, died today.
I should have mentioned that before I even got into this. So yeah, I should.
It's okay. He's 90 years old. What more can you ask for a length of life to make it that far?
Well, I always remember
there was
a documentary on the BBC a couple of years back where Jonathan Ross and Neil Gaiman went to New York to meet him, and Ross rung him from outside his building and had a quick chat with him and put the phone down. Ross goes, "You know what? I think I've just been politely told to fuck off." obviously, Ditko was not a very public person.
No, well,
didn't take no for an answer. And
a lot of the original Marvel DC guys like that started the whole stuff generally weren't.
No.
They preferred to do their thing, write their comics, do their art and all that, and then just put it out there and people enjoy, and let the people who paid to do all the talking and advertising that do that.
Yeah, Kirby and Ditko were not. They were probably what you would phrase as prickly, I guess you would say. And they let Stan Lee do all the talking because that motherfucker loves to run his mouth. Woo.
Yeah, but no, the two of them then decided they weren't going to take no for an answer, and they went into the building, and he actually sat down with them and talked for a few minutes with no cameras, and he gave them some free comics, and that was that. But
nice.
Yeah, it's very, very, very sad. May he rest in peace.
Indeed.
Yeah. So this week, DC had their attempt at a major comics event with Batman getting married to Catwoman. Now, this was built up from issue 24, I think, where he proposed to her. Only for, and I'm going to spoil this here, so sorry in advance. The wedding didn't actually happen. It was all build up and no payoff. And I've read the issue; it's sitting right behind me. And I thought,
boy, again, were they angry about getting blue balled?
Yeah, and I just put the comic down, and I thought, was that it?
Yeah, it wasn't even a good. Something happened to cause it to not happen. It's just a case of we're just gonna decide not to.
Yeah, they just both just yeah. And I mean, if an indie author was to do that in one of their books, or an author in any book about it, you'd think I'd feel like I've been ripped off if I got to the end of that story. And then I think the same thing applies here.
It does. It is a rip-off because it builds up to all that point, and then don't even have any decent reason for why things aren't going the way they've been building up to. It's a freaking cop-out.
Who's the writer?
The way they put it.
I think I've got a comic here. I think it's Tom King, his name. Yeah, Tom King. Apparently he's going to be writing more Batman. Can't wait. But yeah, I mean, I remember the great weddings of Scott and Jean Grey from X-Men, the one in the Hulk, and they actually went through, and they're really cool stories to read. And you get to shit this and you think, wow, all piss and no wind. It's no surprise people drop some of these major series when you get storylines like this.
Yeah, so it's Scott marrying Jean, but on the wedding night, Jean was thinking of Wolverine.
But it's also, it explains why so many people were just furious on Twitter and basically calling up their comic shops and either saying, "Oh, drop that issue and any other issue you have in your list of my pools of Batman," or drop it and can I replace it with these other comics because I'm just not wasting the money on it. Really not.
I mean, Marvel have been a little quiet as of late, which is, I think, good for them. But however, they did decide to give Iceman another try at a series. Okay.
Did they ungay him yet, or is he still under?
No,
he's still gay. It's like the worst kind of stereotype of gay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I have to give them for this week the current Avengers, like all the offset Avengers comic that's currently going with the likes of Riri Williams and Kamala Khan and all that. They finally, I have to give it to them that they finally had a moment where they humanized Riri Williams, considering she's been such a sociopath all this point.
Yeah.
But it took Thanos basically proving the point to her that despite how smart she is and how awesome she thinks she is, she's still just mortal, because she basically tried to have a go with him and he basically blasted 3/4 of the Iron Man suit off her to make the point of, I just took the suit off you. I could have taken all your skin and everything else with it, but I didn't. Because you're squishy little mortal, and I don't give two shits about you. And it actually hammered home to her. She had an existential crisis, and apparently by the end of the comic, she's actually talked with the others and realized, yeah, I'm not the center of the universe. I'm not all powerful. I'm not this awesome, awesome girl who could do whatever the fuck she wants. I'm actually mortal. Shit. I need to reel it in.
You mean they knocked off a little bit of the Mary Sue off her?
Yeah, they knocked the Mary Sue out of her.
Thanos level knocked it out of her. in that he basically gave his equivalent of a bitch slap in the case of here's a tiny little taste of my power, and all I did was remove your suit. I could have removed you entirely from existence, but I didn't, because I want to make a point that you're so pathetic that I'm just going to drop you here and go, have whatever little life you have left, because I know you mortals live such short lives.
You know what, though? The problem with that, though, is that with what's going on with Marvel, I haven't been keeping up recently because it's just been such a fucking mess. But I have this really bad feeling. And I don't want to be like, I'm going to put money down on it, but I'm just going to say, let me speculate for a moment that at some point Thanos is going to be in a bind, and Riri is going to save him, and she's going to turn back into a little bitch and be like,
very likely.
Aren't so high and mighty, are you?
Yeah. Considering the writer that's currently working on it, it's like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if someone else took over writing or writing her in something else and basically completely shot that moment, like that proper defining moment of learning some fucking humanity, and just take it out, just completely shoot it out of the war and turn her back into a little psychopathic little bitch, Mary Sue.
Okay, because like I just like with the way things have been going at Marvel in the last handful of years, it's just like it seems like that would be a moment where they'd be like they'd set it up for this giant, girl power comeback. Where she's like, haha, you thought I wasn't the shit, but I'm the shit. Like some kind
at the end of the year, Scott, we will see if you were right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna put it out there. It's probably, who knows? I don't know which way it's, but it just like with the way things have been going otherwise.
I'm on Team Scott with this. I have no faith in their writing staff that they won't just turn it around to be they double down on the Mary Suification.
Oh yeah, I'm going with that as well, because I don't see this lasting. As like they had a nice moment, but they always keep fucking it up when they have those moments.
But isn't what's his name, Sobolski back in? Isn't he the fucking the EIC now?
Yes, he is.
Yes,
and he kind of said that he was going to be putting a stop to all this bullshit, though.
Well, at the time of this stream, they have started a major relaunch. Tony Stark is back as Iron Man. Thor is back as Thor, etc., etc. Now, I was going to put it in the list for this stream, but I thought it's early days and we can't really comment on it now. So we'll discuss it at the end of the year, because then I'll have some more concrete numbers to work.
Yeah, something a little bit more meaty to discuss. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to DC, there's a new launch of Vertigo books coming out.
Oh God!
Hang on. Where the website says they will be, and I quote, creating modern, socially relevant, high concept, inventive stories. One of the writers for these series is
high concept. Oh God!
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Sorry.
So. I don't even know what to say about this. I mean, other than the fact that this is going to be a train I'll be enjoying watch crash.
Holy shit!
And can you tell who's part of it?
Yeah, Zoe Quinn is one of them.
The whole the gagging and gargling sounds you hear in the background.
Yeah. Zoe Quinn is obviously one of the writers.
Wait, hold on. Zoe Quinn. Why do we know Zoe Quinn? Because of what? What is she famous for?
Zoe Quinn.
She made a Twine game.
Yeah.
She made one Twine game, which is, it's not even a good choose your own adventure game. It's like
Nathan Grayson's nuts. That's how we know.
Right, and 4 other guys. But anyway, that's beside the point. But this is what I'm talking about. This is the climate that we're in, that they are so craven and so desperate to pander to these fucking assholes that they're gonna fucking put this fucking retard that that's her entire resume. She made a Twine game, and they're gonna give her a fucking full published
lots of balls.
A fucking publishing deal to put out a book on Vertigo. What in the fuck is this world coming to?
She's already violated DC's social media policy.
Yes, she has.
Oh, did she? Gee, that didn't take long. Imagine that.
Yeah. And I'm waiting to hear the apology. I'm betting her apology is just going to consist of her just going.
Is she going to go to the UN again?
Well, now, obviously, a moment ago, Scott talked about pandering to certain audiences. Well, a certain group of people chose not to, and this is going to be interesting in the next discussion because we've never talked about crowdfunded comics before. Now, the first one is by a figure which many see as controversial, or whatever word you want to throw in there that's a buzzword. But Richard Meyer, otherwise known as Diversity in Comics, launched a Indiegogo for a project called Jawbreakers, which essentially was a 90s throwback story by the looks of it, in the form of, I think it's called a prestige format comic, the old 48 pages or whatever they were in there.
It's like a classic teen comic, basically.
Yeah. Now, Meyer, he asked for $5K to get this on the go.
I'm actually
at the time of
right now. He is currently on $360,585 US.
Good for him.
Now, to call it
3,867% funded.
Now, obviously, to call that a success is an understatement, but it was what happened after the campaign finished, which was most interesting because apparently Mark Waid, who has been involved in a number of tips with him, placed a phone call to the potential publisher of Jawbreakers, to which shortly afterwards it was cancelled. And then Mark Waid went deadly silent. All his social media disappeared, apparently under orders from C.B. Cebulski, if the rumors are to be believed. And Meyer has now apparently filed a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission because obviously,
because interference.
Yes,
wow,
that's a no-no. Now the comic is still coming out. Apparently, it's I backed this. I'll point this out now. I backed this because I wanted to see more than anything if Meyer could put his money where his mouth was, or other people's money where his mouth was. Because his videos are very, very critical of the current state of comics, and agree or disagree with them as you wish. Yes, but he has been called every buzzword you can think of in attempts to shut him down. He's been doxxed. His videos have been flagged by various individuals, especially the dickheads from Bleeding Cool News. But he keeps coming, and now we've got this to look forward to. What are your thoughts?
What's so funny about the whole deal is like, I'm a guy who sits in my car and does videos on my phone. All you people are suddenly absolutely fucking terrified of me to the point that you're going out of your way to try and fuck me over simply because I'm being bluntly truthful about what's good, what's bad, and what's otherwise with current comics.
You know what's actually really interesting about this, though? Like, if we want to look at this at from a classic comics point of view, you know who Kevin Eastman is, right?
Yes.
Who is Kevin Eastman?
He was one of the creators of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Right.
A wildly, wildly popular comic book that turned into, movie franchise, cartoon franchise, toy franchises for the last 30, 40 years, whatever it's been, 30 years or so. They were an independent comic book. They started off selling comics through the back of comics in those little tiny ads, and like, hey, send us, self-addressed stamped envelope with the check for like $2.99 or whatever it was. The first Ninja Turtles comic ended up going through 6 reprints, I think it was, and they ended up selling a total of I forget the exact number. I want to say it was like 190,000 books, and this is back in like 1982, 1983. They made a crazy amount of money. But here's the thing. Here's the bigger point to that is that they were an independent comic company, independent comic producers that couldn't get the time of day from Marvel or DC or anybody else at the time. And they did it themselves.
Yeah.
And we are now in a place where we're seeing that DC and Marvel and all these other companies are struggling to sell 25,000 issues a month of any other books. And you see things like this where people want something different. They're willing to put their money into something that potentially will be the next Ninja Turtles. It could have that potential. And the comics world is like, just like the, games journalism, they're fucking failing miserably. And we're going back to those early days where these independent creators are doing it themselves. It's DIY is back in fashion. And with things like Indiegogo and Kickstarter and, all these other, funding, GoFundMe and things like that. And, all these platforms, we're seeing people, you know, putting, like you said, putting their money where their mouth is, ostensibly, and creating things that people want. And people are moving away from the big publishers because the shit that they're doing, nobody wants it. They're spitting in the faces of fans on the daily basis and, you know, telling them to go fuck themselves. We don't need you. It's like, all right, fine. We'll fucking go somewhere that does, somewhere that we want to support. And I think it's great. I think it's absolutely fucking brilliant.
There was a particular incident tied to this where a guy went into his local shop to get his pull order. And because he'd been on his YouTube channel praising and supporting Jawbreakers, when they realized it was him, he was essentially thrown out and told to take his money elsewhere. And after that, the comic shop suddenly got into financial difficulties.
Technically speaking, they were already having financial difficulties simply because they're in an area that was quite expensive for rent. And they were already in the plans of moving to somewhere less expensive. But that was just a case of, could you fuck up any harder? Because all the guy did was just an inquiry. He didn't say he backed the comic or anything. He just basically said, excuse me, while I'm picking up my pulls, it's like, would you potentially be stocking this independent comic, Jawbreakers? Because I'm considering buying it. And that's when they basically turned on him, because this woman was the epitome of a Tumblrite with the coloured hair, thick glasses, short and dumpy. And she just immediately turned on him, just taking everything off the counter, just going, no, get out. I don't need you, customer. I don't need that kind of crap here, blah, 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 and just told him to leave.
Wow.
I think that shop is now shut, isn't it?
Yep. And this thing,
they closed a couple of weeks ago.
If you know that your store is financially struggling and you're willing to kick out paying customers over that stuff, then you kind of have problems. But I remember seeing back to the interference from Mark Waid. I remember I saw a video with essentially a YouTube lawyer. He's a legitimate lawyer, and he explains the law to people. And he got asked to look at this. And he said, I'll do a quick thing on it, which turned into like an hour. And he was just going through everything that had happened. And as a lawyer, you could see him getting more and more animated at the Mark Waid side going, you idiot. And at the end of the video, he said, if Mark Waid was my client, I'd get him into my office, I'd slap him, and I'd bill him for it. He's just going like, and he's doing it in a very lawyerish way. It's like, I'm not a judge, but... this is like, I'm not going to say this is definite up to a judge, but this is all torturous interference. He's just going tick, 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 tick. Mark Waid, you are hosed. What the hell, dude? Get this guy a lawyer and just shut him up.
You know what? The whole thing that bugs me most about this is I actually used to really respect Mark Waid a lot because
I remember,
Yeah, Mark Waid has been one of those guys that's got like an encyclopedic knowledge of comics. And he's obviously somebody that loves comics, but somewhere along the line, he turned into one of these listen to believe motherfuckers.
No, but he's been like, apparently, again, all this stuff's come out that, people are saying we think Mark Waid is legitimately autistic and needs help because there's been all these stories about him having these big meltdowns in the middle of work, and the rest of the authors around him just ignore it because, like, he does this every day.
Right.
Okay.
I know he's done that at cons, but it's like a work thing though too. But it's really kind of a bummer to me.
Example of the issue of the whole. You place your idols up on a pedestal until you meet them for real. With the advent of social media, now these people can't hide just behind their work, and you never really see them for. Like, you never see the bad sides of them. Now with social media and these people developing very sticky fingers that they cannot keep off their fucking keyboards for the life of them, showing themselves for who they truly are. And thusly, it's horribly overshadowing any good they ever did as far as their industry goes. And it's
because they're just calling for violence against diversity in comics and other people. It's like, how are you that fucking dumb? Like, how are you that tone deaf?
Yeah, but this is what an echo chamber looks like.
For sure.
People, and for everyone else listening, is what's happening. People going, oh, well, I wouldn't do anything that stupid. I'm not going to I'm going to say we're all capable of this under the right environment. If you're surrounded by a bunch of people who are giving you nothing but bad advice, like, do that. You're really sticking it to the runner, and no one around to sort of go, you know what, that's kind of a bad idea. You probably shouldn't do that.
Right.
This is what's going to happen, and you see it in all facets. So but these guys are willingly surrounding themselves with people who are going to tell them everything they want to hear and not what they need to hear, and this is the natural result.
It's
so,
the Rick McCallum effect, basically, where Rick McCallum was, right?
I remember the name.
Rick McCallum was a producer for George Lucas for the prequels.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, George, go ahead and do that. That's great. You just go right ahead, buddy. You just keep going. Everybody loves you. You're so great.
To be fair, I think Lucas at that point had a reputation for firing everyone who disagreed with him.
He did, and he
really, I never heard that before.
He acted like they were his puppets and wouldn't let them act. Hence why, what's his name, ended up doing that. Ewan McGregor just basically fucked off for 2 years, running around on a motorbike because it just drove him to the brink of insanity. He's like, I'm an actor, and I can't do my job, which is act. I'm literally being made into a marionette, and it's driving me fucking insane.
Oh, dang.
Now, the plus side from all this is it looks like with the money that's been raised for Jawbreakers, there'll be a company formed, Splato Comics, if I've got that right, which Maya will be heading up. And I think a lot of this stuff will only be available online because I don't think they want to deal with Diamond distributions.
Right.
No, they're actually going to be distributing themselves.
That's right,
part of setting up Splato. So...
Yeah, they're going through right now. They're working out making deals with the likes of Amazon and Simon & Schuster for actual distribution because they don't want to deal with most of the others. And the way they want to go with Splato Comics is they want to give everyone and anyone a go. Because it's not just Myers himself. There's actually 3 other pros. Or 4 other pros who were part of the whole deal. And he's kind of the face of it right now. While they're in the background, but essentially 5 of them together, they're basically doing what Image Comics did back in the 90s. That they're starting up their own thing. They're opening up the doors and basically saying anyone who's got a bit of talent or whatever, or has any pros that may want to do their own comic thing, we're here for you. We'll package it up, we'll send it out, we'll print it. You just do your thing, we'll do ours. And no interference, no telling you this, no otherwise. Just do your thing, and if it's good, we'll put it out there and we'll sell it to anyone who wants it.
You know what the thing that's crazy about all this is to me? It's like, I don't know about you guys, but like the comic shops that I grew up in, were always places where you go to find voices that were, subversive and, different. You go there to find books like by Robert Crumb or, whoever the particular person was, like Crumb being probably the most obvious one to invoke. But I mean, there are plenty of things that you generally couldn't find at, other bookstores and things like that. So you had to go to a comic store.
Yeah. And like the heavy metal, all the old school.
Heavy metal books. Yeah. But these comic stores, right. Comic stores were a bastion of free speech, of ideas, of things that you could see that you wouldn't be able to find anywhere else. And now we're in a stage where, like you're talking about, this person's shop just closed up because they didn't want somebody's business, because they didn't like somebody's words or their comics, and just this. It boggles my mind. I'm so flabbergasted by the whole thing.
Technically speaking, that place was doomed to fail because once people looked into it.
But you know what I'm saying overall, though.
The owners went in with this whole thing of, we're going to be progressive. We're only going to stock certain things and rah-rah-rah, and we're going to push all this like agenda politics bullshit. So they kind of went in there with an agenda that was going to kill them anyway.
Yeah.
Well, that leads us to the next one.
Hang on, just to finish, Scott. I mean, we go to our local comic shop, right? And the amount of comics, the place is now 1/3 Funko Pops, and I'm not even being hyperbolous. And the sad thing is, you're seeing all these Marvel and DC ones that are blocking up the shelves, that have the fade on them that they have been there for an extraordinary amount of time. Right. And this place is in a basement, so it's not like it's sun's reaching them. It's really tragic that Marvel and DC are going to be killing off so many of these comic shops because they're just publishing shit that no one wants, and they're utterly refusing to listen to any feedback to fix it.
You know, that's actually a bigger problem, though. That's even with, like, if you go into game stores, it's the same kind of thing. You go into a game store right now and you're going to see 2/3 merchandise and 1/3 games. It's the same kind of problem because brick and mortar can't compete.
I took my daughter to Birmingham for part of her birthday present last week, and we went into the comic shop near the train station, and the lower floor in the middle of it all is merchandise. And I think there's 2 aisles of Funko Pop figures, and the comics are all on the outside. But each looking thing, there's more merchandise I can see here than there is comics, and a lot of it is overpriced, and no one's going to fucking buy it.
Exactly. Because the margins are so small on that kind of stuff that they just can't afford to be like, you can't afford to be a comic shop anymore and sell just comics. You have to be a merchandise place. And then it's like, traditionally it's like the way comic book stores always worked, at least in my area anyway, was that you get your previews and you would order things specifically, and they would like maybe order 1 or 2 or whatever. If there was like a series of something that was like a Hot McFarlane toy series or something, they order like a case of those maybe, but they wouldn't stock this stuff, like have shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves of it. That was always a very specific thing that you bought 1 or 2 of. They would get those for you, and that would be it. And maybe, like I said, there were 1 or 2 other ones, but they weren't a toy store; they were a comic store. So
now this leads.
The problem with things is that with what Marvel and DC are doing is what's killing them is that they say this comic shop says, "Oh, can I get like 50 of dot issue?" They'll send them 200, and then when they can't sell it, they won't take it back. So they're basically getting flooded with these books they never ordered, never asked for. And then that's a huge, and they still get charged for them. And then it's a case of, well, how the hell am I supposed to push this stuff no one wants? And you're just basically dumping it on me and essentially costing me money every time I order from you. But I kind of can't not, because there is people who do want your comics, but you're always oversending. So it's a case of Marvel and DC are the biggest problem of why a lot of these comic places are going out because of that.
Yeah.
Well, it's because of Diamond though too.
Go along fine.
Because they can't operate without Diamond. So it's like they can't be like, Diamond, stop doing this. Be like, yeah, fuck you. We're not going to send you books anymore. It's like, oh well, I can't do that, so I just have to play along.
And the thing is, we're still buying comics. I mean, I look at my Amazon shopping list for my next big buy. There's $300 plus of comics there. It's just nothing from Marvel or DC or. If I decide the money's there, guys, it's just make stuff we want and we will buy it.
Right.
But I really genuinely bad. So
that leads us to the next one, which was of course Cyberfrog by Ethan Van Sciver.
Yeah, he's going gangbusters with his fucking.
Well, his one has overtaken Jawbreakers. The notes I have for this, which were admittedly a week old now, he asked for 8,000 for this one. Again, another prestige format graphic novel, and last time I looked at the numbers, he achieved $415,720. He hit every stretch goal. The book is going to have a chromium cover. You remember those? Because I haven't seen those in years.
I still got a handful.
And this is the part that I like about this. When he hit, I think it was the $200,000 stretch goal, the colorist he's employed gets a 10 grand bonus.
Oh, nice.
Now that's looking after your staff.
Yeah.
And Van Sciver, he has become quite the YouTuber himself now. He's actually a very funny channel. I've watched some of his videos.
Yeah.
But he's attracted a similar kind of hatred from various individuals.
Oh yeah, I've been seeing it this week where people have been trying to imitate him on Twitter. They're basically
I've seen that.
And then just it's an organized campaign at this point. You can't say it's anything else.
Oh, and the claims they're making that he was fired from DC is like, no, he sniffed the blood in the water. He saw the predators coming his way, so he parted ways before they get to him and went independent.
And again, I backed this because the Cyberfrog character I was vaguely familiar with, and the issues of the old issues of Cyberfrog are now going on eBay for ridiculous sums of money. Which I thought was quite funny when I saw, because people will pay for that sort of price. Again, this will be another one I look forward to seeing come to fruition, just to see if, again, he can put his money where his mouth is. But the artwork I've seen so far for this comic looks fantastic.
And also, Ethan's been smart in that the first colorist he had, as soon as the guy started causing him even the snifter of problems, he's like, okay, then I'm moving on to my second choice. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Didn't even give him a chance to stir up anything. Hence why this other guy, he's given, like, one way or another, said even if this thing didn't quite make its goal, he was going to find the money to give this guy some form of bonus anyway, just for putting his neck out there and working on him with it. So he was very pleased to make that stretch goal to be able to give him that bonus he really wanted to give.
How crazy is it that you used that term just then, that he's sticking his neck out to color a comic book? We're living in a time where people are taking a risk at their livelihood for making a comic about a cyborg frog.
Well, John Mallon, who's the artist for Jawbreakers, he actually said
the wrong people on the internet.
Because John Mallon, who's the artist for Jawbreakers, I think he said on Twitter at one point he feels like he'll be effectively blacklisted once he's finished working on the comic book.
Right. See, but that's we're like fucking hello bizarre world. It's like, this is like pants on head retarded. This is fucking crazy that this sort of thing is happening. Like, I just don't even know how to, approach it. It's just like there's no precedent for this.
Yeah, this is the world we live in. And again, people going, oh well, why do you all hide behind avatars and be anonymous and whatever else? It's like, because you bastards will utterly destroy our lives, livelihood, and the ability to earn money if given the chance, because we don't agree with you on things. So, and this has been proven over and over again. So don't sit there and do the innocent, oh, you should all tell us who you really are, stand by your opinions. Like, no, we see what's going happening there.
It's like what Anita Sarkeesian said, we're not trying to take away your games, and then they tried to take away your games.
Yeah.
And I know I'm sort of in the minority because I've always been out there naming face. So, but yeah, there are a lot of people out there, like the fact that you just said, like, he's sticking his neck out for this thing. The fact that we live in a climate like that where ideas are dangerous again.
Yeah.
Where in a time of just absolute ridiculous prosperity, ideas are dangerous. And this is the only thing that this is what people are going after. Is like, if you think differently than I do, then I'm going to try and take away your job, your livelihood, your money. We're going to try and destroy your name and your family.
It's only a certain subset of people who are doing that.
Well, sure, but the fact is, though, that they've garnered a lot of power over the last 5 years, and it's just there's not enough pushback to it.
Yeah, the fact that the average Joe nobody could basically say one word these people don't like, and suddenly they're out of a job, they're kicked out of wherever they live, they've lost everything simply because they said the bad word that these fuckwits don't like. And even though this person isn't anyone of anything, like, no influence, no nothing, just because they said that wrong word, their lives now completely over.
Yeah, because these people want to outdo each other in their righteousness. It's like, oh, I care more about the cause than you do. Look what I did. I got this asshole fired for saying that he voted for Trump, or I fucking got this asshole fired because he said the wrong thing. And he just
one-upmanship, essentially.
Yeah.
And all constantly one-upping each other, who can do what, who can get who, and who can basically sit there on their little throne going, look what I did, aren't I awesome?
Yeah,
basically.
It kind of brings us to the third one, which was Jungle Comics, written by Chuck Dixon, who had been one of the most prolific writers of his time. Now, he asked for $5,000 for this goal. Last time I looked, it was $5,171. Now, Chuck Dixon was one of the guys I remember who wrote tons of titles for both Marvel and DC before he eventually left. And obviously, I know people don't like the guy now, but he did an interview with Milo Yiannopoulos, for his then podcast. And he was talking about the culture at particularly DC before he left, because he was working on Nightwing. And after he left the comic, all the characters he created were killed off, and they nuked the city to make sure they got any ones they missed.
Really?
And yeah. I don't know if the podcast is still up, but I remember that episode thinking, Jesus Christ. And to see him come back and do this very basic looking comic storyline where, as he puts it, I think something like men were awesome and women were hot and so forth.
It's a throwback. It's essentially it's a riff on the old exploitation films of the 70s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, right? Where you've essentially got a bunch of guys who land in an Amazon-esque world.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But again, it's very tongue-in-cheek. It knows what it is, and it's not pretending to be otherwise. And the thing is, stuff like that is just fun. And so the artwork looks amazing. And the funny thing is you see them all complaining, oh, you're drawing objectifying women. And I'm like, no, he's drawing just normal, attractive women. Because there was one that went across my Twitter feed a couple of days ago where people were like, again, the usual crowd were complaining about the way he was drawing them disproportionately. And then the next picture is a picture of a German hurdler who looks exactly like the characters. And they're like, sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah.
But, apparently it's like, here's the other thing too. It's just like, it's so funny that these people want to rewrite history, but then when you do things like use these body types that are, if somebody's okay here, remember what was that comic the about the fat chick that could fly? Was it Faith? I think it was.
Yeah,
Faith,
Right?
right?
Movie out of it. Oh,
Yeah.
God,
I know.
Sony greenlit a movie for it. It's getting bad.
It's like okay.
For frick's sake, she's like, the way they draw her, she's idealized fat.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. But that's the thing. It's like it's like you can't have. It's like, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you can't have a superhero that does all these things and doesn't look like that. It's kind of they kind of have to. And the funny thing was, remember when BuzzFeed did that thing of like, we're gonna take normal women and see if they can pose like fucking
They were all
these things.
fatties. Yeah, because I remember that.
It's like, why they can't pose like that? Because because they're too fucking fat. It's like, come on, dude.
You had all these other athletic women going, really? You mean this pose? And
exactly.
Off BuzzFeed.
Exactly. It's just like, God, these people that it's like I just got to do that every time because I just don't even know. It's
well,
because like what they basically want people to think of as normal isn't normal, it's fat.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
They're like, oh, this is not normal. Like, if you're an average person living like eating the average diet without a whole heap of shit and crap and takeout and whatnot, anyone can look like that.
Yeah.
Or remotely have a body that looks like that.
Well, see, it's more insidious than that, though, is because it's like basically from this generation that's doing all this stuff and saying all these things. These motherfuckers are like, oh, it's like, I've lived my whole life under the thumb of people and they've been making fun of me and now I'm going to give it back to them. So they've got this idea. It's like, all right, well, you're going to fat shame me. Well, I'm going to fucking normal shame you or whatever the fuck they want to call it, but it's like this is them getting back at everybody for them being mistreated. It's like, oh, I'll show you fucking skinnies, fucking fat is beautiful, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Like, what's that? The fucking plus size model. I can't remember her name, but she's like
Tess Holiday.
Tess Holiday, that fucking, the one she needs a fucking new liver because she's so fucking fat or whatever the fuck it is. She's got all these crazy health problems, but she's like, oh no, I'm perfectly in great shape. This is awesome.
Yeah,
it's like, no, it's not.
The feet fall off. No, just going back to the gaming one. Going back to the gaming one, with Dead and Alive, where they had Ivy, and there was this whole controversy where, again, the usual Kotaku writer, she wrote this article going, "Oh, Ivy's unrealistic, rada." And people in the comments of the article going, "You do realize that there are cosplayers that are shaped like that in real life?" Like, oh, honey, those people don't exist. And people just started spamming her Twitter account. Going, like look, these women who are exactly shaped like Ivy. What were you saying?
Yeah.
Talk hard. Women can have big titties, big hips, and a little waist.
Crazy, right?
And the thing is, you could tell the author was just green-eyed monster, right? Because even Liana Kay got in on it, and she's like, well, no, this is literally me cosplaying as Ivy, and Ivy shaped. Right, so you could tell that the original article was just she was just really, really green-eyed monstering, and everyone's going, look, cosplayers who look like this. Look, more Amazon cosplay. So then it just became post hot shapely cosplayer thread, and people just going, well, sorry, you're wrong. You're provably wrong.
Yeah.
You know why she was so jealous? Because she got itty bitty titties that are barely A's.
Yeah, because she was a pirate's fantasy.
All right, so we'll move on to the movies now.
Oh god!
Because obviously now, this would be where we have some real fun. Obviously, we can't cover every movie that's come out this year so far because we'd be here till 2:00 in the morning my time. But we'll cover some of the bigger releases and have a good laugh. And of course, we can't start with anything except Solo. Soilo, I beg your pardon.
You know what? I haven't seen it. I still haven't seen it, dude.
Officially,
I actually forgot about it.
It's officially the first Star Wars movie to be a flop. It needed to break.
Hard.
Yeah, it needed to break 500 million to break even, and it didn't manage that. Critics, it's about 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, 65% fans. But suffice to say, it's not very good.
Yeah.
The whole Star Wars franchise at the moment. Look, there's rumors coming out of Disney that they're trying to find a way to sort of build a Star Wars, like realistic Star Wars ship and shoot Kathleen Kennedy into the sun, because she has apparently destroyed the Star Wars department at Disney. No one wants to take it over, because it's essentially such a toxic minefield of, people who will basically, destroy the project if she's fired. Not to mention that, apart from the movie franchise stuff, Disney has sunk about $10 billion, billion with a B, into park expansions for just Star Wars themed areas. Right? This isn't revamping new areas. This is buying new land to build Star Wars areas at Disney parks. Given that Star Wars is now kind of tanking because of things like Solo and The Last Jedi and the rest of it, Disney looks like all the gains that they've made from the Marvel franchise and everything else is about to be utterly wiped out, because Star Wars, the franchise that was supposed to be the complete, easy money franchise that no one could possibly screw up, has been completely screwed up.
But of course, there was stuff coming out from the set where the film was being made, such as the original directors getting the boot, the guy that playing Han Solo requiring
one of those guys.
He needed something like 2 acting coaches.
The story with that regarding the first directors is because they took the script, realized they couldn't do it properly serious, so they did a bit of the tongue-in-cheek sort of humor like the original Star Wars had.
Yeah.
And apparently Kennedy saw that, flipped her absolute fucking shit, and fired them. Because they basically like, well, how else are we supposed to work with this script that you just can't take seriously?
Yeah. And then, of course, there's the bits of Lando being a pansexual, which I didn't even know what that meant until this came out. I had to look it up. And his feminist robot, I think it was. You hear this stuff and you just think, no thanks. And apparently a lot of other people thought that as well.
Apparently a lot of people in their cinemas, a lot of people cheered when that bot basically finally got her shit and blasted away. And it's like, oh yeah, so much for such a strong, powerful robot. The fact you're reduced down to basically the nav system for the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, of course.
This is so sad for me in a way.
Yeah, it's sad for me as well, because I don't like seeing this happen to this franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Star Wars tattoos.
Yeah,
like that's how invested. I love Star Wars, man. I saw the first 6 movies opening night. I was there opening night for all of them. I remember sitting in line when I was a kid, fucking going to see Star Wars, and it was just, and I knew this was going to be a problem, but I didn't realize how quickly it was going to degrade into the problem that it's turned into, because it's like you cannot keep pushing these things out year after year after year after year, because it loses something that makes it special. When you start doing that, we see that with Call of Duty and video games, saw it with Assassin's Creed, where every year they put out and it just became just the same fucking thing over and over. And there's nothing interesting or entertaining about it when you're trying to force things out just to meet a holiday season release schedule. It just loses some of that specialness.
Yeah.
It's not just that as well. It's just they're so objectively bad. And then you see the writer on Twitter literally had George Lucas and Steven Spielberg trying to give him the lightest of writing tips, and him basically telling them to fuck off. And you're like, okay, Star Wars is done.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing though too, and I'm gonna say something that's probably not real popular, but I didn't have a problem with The Last Jedi. There were things about it that were stupid that I was just like, oh come on, man. Like, okay, one of the main things.
you say that, Scott. The thing is, at least I know that in this stream, for example, we can have these conversations and say disagree or agree with each other. If you dare say this stuff out loud, my fucking God, the Inquisition will come for you.
Oh, yeah. For what I'm about to say, too, I would probably get excoriated for this.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
Anyway, but, okay, it's like, you know what? We get it. Girl power. Women are awesome. We all love fucking women. Stop beating us over the head with every female in the fucking Star Wars universe is the fucking greatest thing ever because we fucking get it.
Yeah.
The disturbing thing I saw yesterday that someone pointed out is all the female characters in the new movies are basically all Kathleen Kennedy self-inserts. This is
pretty much. No, but it's just like, you know, it's like, okay, all right, that's cool, man. Let's get women into this. Let's, you know, make them a bigger part of it. That's fine. But it's like they're just so ham-fistedly just beating everybody over the head with it. It's like if you watch The Last Jedi, I don't think there's a single scene that doesn't feature a woman in the scene, even coverage scenes where they just show background characters. It's like women.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's so forced that it's like, you know, it's like, oh, come on, dude. Because like after a while, I was playing a game when I was watching. I was like, I'm gonna put my finger on the screen and there's gonna be a woman there.
We can
that as well. It's like the big problem is as well. It's like because they're going women are so awesome, women are so great. None of these female characters have any substance to them.
No,
they're all just surface-based things with no deeper emotions, no deeper motivations, no nothing to them. Thusly, no one likes them. And even little girls who normally just jump on the whole. Oh, look at this girl doing all this strong stuff. Don't want them because they're like, but. Even the Disney princesses have got to actually, you know, earn the place to be a princess, or something happened in them to be basically they a princess, and these are like they don't do anything to be what they are, so they're not inspirational, and thusly little girls are like, I'd rather be Kylo Ren. At least he's interesting.
Well, we can talk about The Last Jedi a little bit here because obviously the Blu-ray came out this year, and I saw a video on YouTube where a guy watched the trailer for the Blu-ray. And he actually noticed that the subplot with Rose and Finn on that gambling planet, there were no scenes of that in the trailer. And he's going, where's that movie? Why didn't they release that movie so I can see it? And then it turned out later on that the sales for The Last Jedi were not fantastic. The numbers I've got here, for The Force Awakens, there was 5.9 million Blu-rays sold. For The Last Jedi, there was 2.8.
Wow, that's a pretty significant cut.
And also, the funny side of this story, somebody actually noticed a massive continuity error.
I know what you're going to talk
Jedi.
about.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, we'll go on, Scott. You take it away then. What am I going to say?
Are you talking about the lightsaber fight?
Yeah, go on.
Oh, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Fucking Rey is fighting one of the Red Guard, and they do this. They're doing this left to right pan of the fight, and when they're doing the little move, the guard has two swords or axes or whatever the fuck they are, and when they do the left to right pan around it, one of them disappears.
Yeah,
it's just
one of them disappears from his hand.
It disappears. If it hadn't disappeared, she had a massive opening, and it would have been like, oh well, then we would.
She would have had. Well, it should have disappeared into her back, is what should have happened. But it didn't.
Also, there's also another error that they left in where one of those guys is running towards her and she's actually out of time. Like her timing's gone off. And when she was meant to be facing him to block him, she hadn't turned yet. So you see the guy go, I'm gonna run in and do my thing. Oh shit!
He does a little stutter.
Swing! And it's obvious that it's completely mistimed. He's just standing there like shit. Timing's wrong. Wait. Oh, here she goes. She turns. I swing now.
And now I go.
And now I go. That into production is just what?
Yeah. Now there's also an issue that come up with this, which I'll be totally serious about for a minute. Now it was alleged in a series of stories that Kelly Marie Tran had deleted her Instagram photos because of the amount of abuse, etc., that she had received because of her character portrayal.
Which turned out to be complete bullshit.
Yeah, because there's no evidence to support that this actually happened.
Not 100% confirmed, but it's pretty much case. There's no proof that she left because of abuse. It's a case of she just left. And there's sort of rumored that she potentially did just so she would basically remove the temptation of things like Snapchat and all that while she's working on the next movie because NDAs are in place.
Yeah. Now, I'll play devil's advocate for a minute here and say that if anyone is thinking about abusing or harassing an actor or an actress because of a part they played in the film, please don't. Because not only is it very, very unpleasant, but it also essentially gives them ammunition of which to go on about this for some or however time they want to go on about this for.
And
But in
it's not
short,
the actor's
please
fault.
don't do that. No, it's not the actor's fault that they're potentially playing a turd movie. So please do not harass anyone if this has indeed happened. So there you go.
Brian
There's that out of the way.
Johnson, Kathleen Kennedy, knock yourself out. But actors,
Yeah. No. And this led to John Boyega coming onto Twitter and essentially picking a series of fights with people about this and not making himself look very good in the process, I think.
No.
He's got a bad case of tall poppy syndrome getting going there.
Yeah, got a little fucking Napoleon action going on there, right? He's gonna ride in on his
And
horse.
the problem is he does not have the clout behind him to be able to mouth off the way he was and not suffer dire consequences.
But
he
you know
has
what?
not done enough successful movies, and he's not established himself as an actor in anything else bar Star Wars really so far. And even then,
exactly.
So.
But
He's faced with one wrong word, he could kill his own career because people these days have gotten to the point where they're very picky in that they go, oh no,
not
there's
him.
a new movie's coming up. Oh, that actor's in it. I'm not seeing it on principle.
Well, no, he'll still get work because he's an up and coming, and I hate to put it in such basic terms, but he's an up and coming young black male actor, which there are not a lot of that are marketable. So he's not gonna have trouble finding work.
But the key word especially if he's mouthing off. But didn't you see the cinematic masterpiece that was Pacific Rim 2?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a bit. We'll get to that in a bit. And the whole topic of these celebrities we'll get to at the end because that's what I want to finish on. But the next one we'll talk about was Jurassic World 2. Yeah. Now, as I understand it, this film is okay at best.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
It drew in more than freaking Solo ever did.
It's got problems, but it's fine. I mean, that's
critics and fans pretty even scoring it. 51% critics, 59% fans. Yeah. But it pulled in a shit ton of money.
Oh, and for sure.
I think it went down to a quote which I saw attributed to Colin Trevorrow, where the franchise was built upon respect for the fans, whereas Solo and the Star Wars reincarnation is clearly not. I haven't seen it. I've seen the first Jurassic World, and dinosaurs in the park, escape, kids in peril, stop when it sounds familiar.
Haven't we been here before? It's so odd.
We've been here before, and I didn't. So I haven't bothered with this. If it comes on Netflix, I might watch it.
Yeah. It's worth a watch. It's worth a watch. Just to see.
Have they actually advanced the plot like was in the books, where essentially they eventually made it to the mainland?
Well, and the thing is, have you read the books of Jurassic Park and the Lost World? Because I tell you what, they do deviate from the books quite substantially in those two movies.
Right. Well, I can kind of give you a rundown on what happens if you want.
Go on, just give us a brief rundown.
Just a brief rundown is the dinosaurs are going to die because the volcanoes are exploding on the island, and they're like, we have to save the dinosaurs. And Jeff Goldblum's like, I'm gonna tell you the same thing I've been telling you for 30 fucking years. Let them die. They don't belong here. This is not their world anymore. But evil corporation comes in, just like in Jurassic Park 2. It is basically Jurassic Park 2 all over again, except there's a little twisty twist at the end. So they bring the dinosaurs back to the mainland. The dinosaurs, yada yada, get out in the mainland America and Southern California somewhere, and evil corporation.
I'm cheering for that. Just fence off San Francisco. Put the dinosaurs in there. I'm good.
But it's fine. But it's funny though. Can I spoil it?
If you want to.
I mean, do you guys care?
No.
Nope.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I don't want to step on any toes. Okay. So the twisty twist is it's taken them. What is this? The 5th movie? It's taken them 5 movies to get to this point, but apparently John Hammond had a silent partner that they've never talked about previously in this one, who has cloned a human. He cloned his daughter who had died in a car wreck. And I honestly can't believe it's taken them this long to get there, and I can't figure out how the fuck they're going to pay this off. Like, seriously, because if there's dinosaurs loose in America, and they're cloning humans now. Like, this is not that franchise anymore. Like anything going forward is
clone
not
humans feed to dinosaurs. There you go.
there you go. Exactly.
We'll leave that one there and progress on to the next one, which I know Scott's going to have a few more to say about, I think. And that is, of course, Ocean's 8.
God, yeah, I haven't seen that either. But yeah, no, we got some stuff to talk about.
It's made back its production budget, but there was a bit of a gap between the fans and the critics. 67% critics, 47% fans. But what made this film interesting was Mindy Kaling, Kate Blanchett, and a couple of others complaining about their films being judged by white male critics, as well as Brie Larson in a little conference she attended. I know, Scott, you're a massive fan of hers.
Well, I don't dislike her, but she says some dumb shit sometimes. God damn.
Yeah,
her and Mindy Kaling say some.
And my response to this whole thing has just been, rack off, bitches. You've made a bad movie. Live with it.
I'll be a little bit more charitable than that, but yeah.
Basically, it's like if you really wanted this to go your way, it's like even if 50% of the population is female, even then, you're not going to win anything back as far as brownie points or anything. And also, the movie you've made is aimed for the market that normally tailors to men, not women. So you kind of shot your own feet off from the beginning.
Here's the thing though. Okay, let's look at the Oceans 11 through 13. All right, there were 3 movies previous to this one. Okay, if you look at the scores on Rotten Tomatoes, they are I think the highest they got was Oceans 11 was 82, and then Oceans 12 was I think 67, and then Oceans 13 was 52%, I believe. Yeah. So we're not looking at things that were like giantly successful here. So there's a precedent that these movies were not well liked generally. They were average at best. And so there's like right off the bat, it's like, hey, guess what? White male critics didn't like the movies with the white men in them either. Mindy Kaling, shut the fuck up already with this gender bullshit, because it obviously doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that set me off, is just like she's creating this false equivalence whereby she thinks that if we had more female critics, which you know what, we live in the age of the internet, of crowdfunding, where there is literally nothing stopping women from being critics. There's nothing. There is no barrier. There's Vimeo, there's YouTube, there's Dailymotion, there are a fucking myriad of video platforms out there where anybody with a webcam with a $20, that is the only barrier. A $20 webcam is the only barrier that you have to get over to be able to be a critic in this day and age. So the things that she's saying are just completely just bullshit. And
it's not only that though, it's the double standard of here, because obviously they're saying white male critics. Now, I dare someone to go out and say black critics or whatever.
Oh, of course.
Destroyed. But apparently now it's okay to bash white men and tell us we don't have an opinion. Okay then.
Well, I mean, it's been that way for a while now. That's what they've been telling us anyway, thanks to intersectional feminism.
Yeah.
Fucking break.
What's ridiculous I find with that is like, for every white man, there's likely a white woman attached to him who really does not appreciate the bullshit you're slinging. And really does not appreciate you basically telling the guys around her that they're all misogynist, rapist, you name it, mansplainers, bullshit. It's like, and they on principle just go, well, you fucking bitches, screw you, I'm not going near another thing you ever do. Just on principle.
Now, on to the next one, which, I saw earlier this year, was the latest Tomb Raider movie.
Oh God!
Yeah, Scott summed it up for me. Well, I'll point out here, I didn't pay to see it. Now, this movie obviously is based on the reboot games, which Rhianna Pratchett wrote, and I tell you what, this movie was boring. Alicia Vikander as Tomb Raider was not in the slightest bit interesting to me. Apparently, it is a financial success, so we may see another one. But the story
fall into the same realm as Resident Evil stuff, cheap to produce but makes profit.
Yeah. But the thing is, what pissed me off was the story of this movie, because with the 2 reboots, especially the first one, the story was fantastic, and I enjoyed the campaign so much. I think I went through it 3 times on different platforms. But they took all the good stuff and abandoned it. and made what I'd call a typical Hollywood movie out of this.
Yeah.
And it was just such a flat movie.
Well, the Hollywood version of a video game, basically.
Yes, essentially.
Where
And
they strip everything and made the video game what it was and just make it just the most bland, caricature-filled just piece of tripe that they can.
And
what
there was
pissed me off as well. It's like that was my Tomb Raider was my first ever PC game.
I think it was a lot of people's first ever PC game, actually. Christ.
But there was one scene that really pissed me off because it was just bad writing as far as I was concerned.
Just
and
one.
This one in particular, because there's obviously the scene, again, spoilers here if you don't care, whatever. There's a scene where she gets to the eye and she finds Daddy Dearest alive and well, and she reveals that she's brought his journal with her, and now she's given the evil people what they need to open the tomb. And he goes, "I can't believe I underestimated your," and she goes, "What, stupidity?" And he went, "No, bravery." And I thought, what? No, it's clearly fucking stupid. And the best bit before that, where she's reviewing the evidence, and he says in the videotape to her, "All my work on Trinity, burn it." And I thought, why didn't you burn it before you made the tape?
Right. Yeah.
And
dude, no, you know what's even better though? Even before that though? Or no, right after. Remember the scene at the pawn shop? All right, okay, hold on. Let me play this through. Okay, so she gets to a point where she's under arrest, right? Her mom or whoever it is comes and gets her out of prison, right? Or gets her out of whatever the jail is, and brings her in. Is like she's in there with a lawyer, and all she has to do is sign these papers to get this fortune, this massive fortune, this, untold wealth, this palatial estate, the whole 9 yards, right? She plays with the little box. She figures out how to open the box and gets the clue to figure out where Daddy's research is, right?
Yeah.
She goes and finds his research. And instead of signing this, literally just signing her name on this thing and getting untold wealth, she goes to a fucking pawn shop to sell a necklace that her dad gave her. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking retarded?
Yeah.
And I hit stop. I was like, I'm done. This is so fucking contrived and so stupid. That doesn't make any fucking sense. This is totally incongruous. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I was just like, this is the dumbest fucking movie I've seen.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So I'll be surprised if there's another one, but the story was what pissed me off the most, because they just butchered all the good bits out of the game story and just made this flat movie, which at best was okay. At best, I mean, the critics' rating was 49%, fans' rating was 59%, so nothing much to shout about there.
God, I couldn't even remember the original Tomb Raider movie with Jolie. It's like at least that was an interesting adventure action movie.
Yeah, it's like an action-packed kind of fun movie.
Felt like Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Everything I saw in the trailers to come up with this one, I'm like, that doesn't look or feel or anything like Tomb Raider. Even the modern Tomb Raider, it looks boring. And you've obviously proven it was.
Well, the modern Tomb Raider is boring. It's fucking quick time event, the video game. It's just like, no thanks.
So we'll move on to the next one then, of course, which was Black Panther.
Wait, hold on.
Go on.
I forgot about the thing about remember I was talking to you about the thing that happened with Brie Larson. We're going to talk about that. Do you want to do that?
Oh yes, I beg your pardon. Yeah, go do it now because I forgot.
Okay, we'll get that out of the way real quick.
Yeah.
Or I'll try and get it out of the way as quickly as possible.
Yes,
okay, so when Larson was she was doing the talking shit, on the interview or whatever about male critics and all that stuff. They were doing this thing where all the websites like BuzzFeeds and all these other quote unquote news websites were running this story about Pinar Toprak. She's the person making the score for
I know what you're gonna say.
Right,
yeah,
Captain Marvel. So anyway, I saw this and I was looking around and I saw some people making some posts, right? On Imager or whatever, and somebody had made a post. I was like, because they were saying like the thing was, it's like all these websites are like Pinar Toprak, the first female conductor to make a score for a superhero film, and I'm like, wait a minute, that ain't right. I was like, I know that ain't right. So like I'm looking at all these sites and like all this stuff is going on, and it's like the very first woman to write a score for a superhero film, and this, that, and the other. I'm like, bullshit, dude. Like Mask of the Phantasm was done by Shirley Walker back in 1994. Yoko Kanno who did the Ghost in the Shell scores and a fucking million other scores for various Japanese superhero things since fucking God knows when, 80s and 90s on. It's like, so the thing was, though, you get this, I see that they're creating this narrative through PR, and all these sites are just reprinting the same fucking thing. First woman to ever do this, first woman to ever do this. And I start calling some of them out on Twitter. And so I post this thing and it blew up. Like my fucking mentions were going batshit for like 3 days. And like I think it ended up getting like 10,000 something retweets and 10,000 likes and all this other shit. And people were like, like, yeah, what the fuck is this? Shirley Walker did this back in 94. It's like, yeah, no, this is total bullshit. And so I'm like, I keep tweeting at these people that are writing these articles. I'm like, this is verifiably incorrect, and it's like, it's very much had the stench of PR on it. And the thing is, it's like, they're like, Marvel is trying to do this thing with Captain Marvel when it comes out like next year. I think it is like 2019. They're trying to create this mysticism around this, like, oh, this, female superhero, she's the most powerful superhero in the Marvel universe. And then they're trying to do this other thing where they're like, first female composer to make a score for a superhero movie ever. And they're doing all this stuff. And when you call these people out on it, they just fucking ignore it. They're doing this revisionist history stuff. And they're completely ignoring the fact that there have been women that have been working in the film industry that have done this sort of thing already. Shirley Walker in particular, who worked on the Batman the Animated Series and all the other Timber shows and stuff. And
like the Star Wars septic tank is leaking.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's basically. So it's kind of crazy though. It's like, and you think about it, it's like, okay, they're trying to bring women into this, into this realm, which is, statistically and, generally speaking, when you're talking about superheroes, it's, males from 18 to 35. That's the demographic, right? And they're trying to bring women into this because, at the core, women generally, when you look at households, they're the ones with the buying power. So they're trying to get them involved in it to basically use them to make money. But the thing is, though, they're trying to create this mysticism around the release of this film already by lying, just flatly, blatantly lying and making up things out of whole cloth to try and get women interested in this stuff. And it's fucking crazy because it's like I am about as anti-feminist as you can get. And like feminists should be like, wait a minute, you're fucking ignoring the accomplishments of women that decades old, the things that they have done for fucking, the last 30 years, like Shirley Walker, Yoko Kanno, fucking a myriad of other creators and artists. You're just fucking, nope, they don't exist. It's like the feminists should be the ones saying this, not me. It's like, and I'm the one pointing this shit out. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. You know what else regarding this? It's like the women they're aiming this at will never see it anyway because they'll do the whole virtue signal like there's nobody's business online, but I won't spend a red cent on the actual thing. Hence why this has never worked. And it's currently killing comics. Yeah. It never worked with games. And it's again with the collusion between all these reporters in quotes, and journalists in quotes. Yeah. It's like everyone's pointing out. It's like this is basically what we pointed out in Gamergate of these collusional bullshit, where everyone just basically copies and pastes each other's article to basically fillet each other. While
they're stenographers. They're absolutely stenographers. They don't do anything but repeat what they're told because they get paid.
And not fact checking. And I saw some people get really pissed with a couple of the articles that they did the copy paste thing, but then they missed out on the actual composer's name. So they're like, first female composer, female this, and people are like, what's her name?
Yeah.
Where, you keep saying female composer. It's like, what's her fucking name?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what though? And throughout this whole thing though, I got a special little kick because at one point in this, when it was getting passed around, to the usual suspects of folks who turn on the outrage and kind of amplify these kind of things, I saw a handful of people try to tag in E. Miles Chung. And I'm like, he's got to be having a hell of a time right now trying to figure out why he can't see this because I haven't blocked. And I just got a little chuckle. I was like, he's like, why can't I see this? People keep sending me this link and I'm blocked. So I got a little chuckle out of that. So that was kind of funny because I hate that fucking pumpkin-headed dipshit.
Right.
Anyway.
Can we move on now?
Yeah, we can move on. Sorry, I just wanted to. I forgot about that because it was
I had to get that out of his system.
Yeah, but I mean, like, just to finish the point really quickly, though, just to put an end cap on it, though, is that we're seeing PR do this. We're seeing people just be stenographers and repeat this stuff over and over. Same thing that, like, Peter said about Gamergate. We saw these same talking points spouted again and again and again. And it kind of sucks because PR is basically taking a book or a page from Frank Luntz, who is a Republican strategist, who realized that, if I put enough people in enough TV shows saying things that are completely untrue, if enough people say it on enough different shows and enough people start to see it said again and again and again, it becomes true. And that's what's going on with the PR stuff.
Nicked that from Goebbels of things.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. No,
it's enough, and people will believe it.
Exactly. Yeah. So
problem is with that now. It's like we live in an information society, so you can try that, but all it takes is one person to spend 2 seconds in Google and disprove it, and then it's destroyed because.
Well, but
people won't take things spoon-fed to them anymore because they have the access to go, oh, really? Let me have a look at that. I want to know more. Oh, wait, you're lying out your ass.
No, but see, that's the thing. I beg to differ. I think it's quite the opposite. People like you and I and everybody else, people who are fans might do that. But the average person isn't going to look any further past that. And that's why this kind of thing propagates and is becoming the problem that it is. Because people don't look deeper, sadly. I mean, like seriously, normies, they're not going to look into this. They're going to be like, oh, what is this about? I don't know who this is. I don't know what this means. I just want to see this movie. It's first woman composer. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I like that. Women are awesome. Fucking.
Yes, though it's starting to show that it still doesn't work because the ones that have been pushing this and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it aren't making the profits they think they're going to make because doesn't matter that they're pushing all these agendas. Like in the end, it's a case of, is it even a good movie? No? Then why would I waste my money on it? I'll stick to Netflix.
All right, so we'll move on to Black Panther. Very successful Marvel movie.
Blank Panther?
Blank,
yeah, Blank Panther. Yeah.
Trump Panther. You actually look
made over $1 billion profit. 97% with critics, 79% fans. Apparently, pretty average Marvel movie with the usual crappy CGI, but apparently it scored a big hit. So fair play to it. It did quite well.
Make Wakanda great again. Seriously, though, you had all the critics before it came out going, this is going to be a super anti-Trump film, Notice how they all shot up as soon as it was released. Because I actually saw it with a friend of mine who was reasonably skeptical, and he came out going, Wakanda's awesome. They built walls. They keep people out. Yeah. And that's essentially...
I didn't even think about that. They built a wall.
The main villain is a social justice warrior who essentially comes in to Wakanda going, well, I want to fucking use Wakandan technology to take over the world because, slave trade in America. I'm like, dude, you come from like a magical technology country that you knew about, that you could have gone back to at any time, but decided just to sit there and go, no, I was oppressed and now I want to take it out on the rest of the world.
I have not been so thoroughly unimpressed by a movie in decades. I was like, from all the fucking hype, like I don't buy into hype ever, right? But from all the fucking hype, from all the consistent across the board hype, from people that like I generally, when I look at their excuse me, when I look at their appraisals of things and they say something is good, I generally tend to think, okay, well, let's have a look at it. Let's see what all the fuss is about. I haven't been so fucking bored by a movie in decades. There was just nothing good about this movie. The whole thing was a fucking Mary Sue from the fucking get-go.
But Scott, you're a white man. What do you know?
Oh, I know. I can't, obviously. I don't know about African culture, but like, Jesus Christ, dude. Seriously, when they fucking went into Wakanda and they were doing the flying shot through the buildings and stuff, and there's a skyscraper and they come around on the side of the skyscraper and there's a grass hut on the side of a skyscraper, I was like, come fucking on, dude. Really? A fucking grass hut on the side of get out of your fucking ass. We're talking about, the fucking most advanced authority on the entire planet, and they got a grass hut on the side of a fucking skyscraper. Get the fuck out of here with that stupid shit. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. And the movie was so fucking ugly.
All right. Tell you what.
That was so terrible. Oh.
Okay. Okay.
God.
Let's move on to the next one.
No. I'm not done yet. I got one more thing.
Are you sure? Sure.
No, I ain't done yet. You're gonna hear me out, motherfucker. Give me a second. Just give me a second. All right, I'll make it quick.
Okay.
Try to anyway.
Yeah, please make it quick.
Okay. Here's the thing. You know what? I love movies. At one point I wanted to have a career in film. That was something I very seriously wanted to do. And there's this thing. In film. It's called show don't tell. Okay, show me why a thing is a thing. Show me why somebody's a threat. Don't tell me about it. Show me. And they did so little showing. It's like, oh, this Eric Killmonger, he's a real bad dude. And they didn't show me anything. Show me something. Well, he killed a couple of guys. Okay, whatever. They didn't show me why he's a threat. They did all this talking about, oh, Killmonger, he was this, he was that, blah, 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 blah. And they wasted him. They wasted the potential of him. Chadwick Boseman was so fucking cardboard. Everybody else in this movie was so fucking like his fucking the little girl genius who may as well have been Riri Williams with the fucking, magical driving car shit and the nanotechnology. Oh, so get the fuck out of here with the fucking Mary Sue bullshit. But Jesus Christ, man, fucking Michael Jordan could have been awesome. They could have done so much, and they totally squandered him in favor of just doing all this other superfluous bullshit that nobody gave a fuck about. It's just like, show me that Killmonger's a fucking threat. Show him going through the fucking ranks and tearing up the underworld and killing people and destroying and trying to get to where he is. Show me his motivation, because right now, all I know is, he shot a girl in an airfield, and he's the badass. Oh, he's a big badass. Just like. There was no show there. There was nothing there. The whole thing was a huge fucking letdown.
And to be honest,
scene.
Copy and paste that rant and change a little bit, and that's pretty much my rant about Infinity Wars Part 1.
Oh yeah, I still haven't seen that yet. I'm still waiting.
I haven't bothered with it. Same problem. All right, we'll move on to the next one, which I think is about the only film maybe in this list, besides one at the end, that we can celebrate. As being an original piece of work that did really well, and that was A Quiet Place.
I still haven't seen that yet. I almost watched it.
Well, there's no spoilers here because I haven't seen it either. I'm going off what I've been told from various articles and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But 95% critics, 85% fan rating, 84 fan rating. Made on a budget of 21 million, and it's grossed over 328 million profit. And what I've been told about, essentially, the tension is non-stop. This is the sort of movie that people couldn't even eat at the cinema because they were busy waiting to see what happens next.
They did an amazing thing. For those who haven't seen the trailers or anything, you've essentially got this world where there are these monsters out there that attack anyone who makes noise. So the first thing they did with the film is there's no movie soundtrack. There's no musical soundtrack, I should say, right? Everything is dead quiet. So you haven't got any background noise. So when someone makes a noise, it jumps out at you, and everything is so quiet. It just plays on that primal lower brain of, it's too quiet. I can't hear any birds or any background noise. What's going on? And it just keeps you, it just keeps that tension up the whole time. So anyone drops a plate, drops a glass, any of that sudden noise, you can't help but go, shit, the monsters. Yeah, and they did it so well. So it's one of the ones I'm actually keen to see it when it's.
Well, I mean, the trailer alone has me.
Also, I was going to say for EJ, it's like, for what you were ranting about before about the show don't tell. This is the epitome of show.
Yeah,
the entire movie is show.
Yeah.
No real tell, because there's no speaking as such.
And to give one slight spoiler for the story, which I don't think is much of one. One of the characters, the wife in the story, Emily Blunt's character, is 8 months pregnant. And you see a clip of the scene where she has to give birth without screaming while there's a creature looking for her. And I can't even begin to imagine that, because obviously I've had 4 children. And if I were to tell my wife, shut up, woman, while she's giving birth, I'd lose teeth.
I think you'd lose more than teeth.
Yeah. Well, That's me, but another guy I knew, when his wife was giving birth, he was holding her hand for comfort. Of course, women, when they're giving birth, they have devil strength, and she broke his hand. So I couldn't even begin to imagine that perspective. But the trailer alone is enough to sell this movie to people.
Yeah. The funniest story I've ever heard about that is a woman gave birth. She basically reached over, grabbed her husband by the balls and squeezed and went, "This is your fault!"
Yeah.
Also, one of the other things that people are praising about A Quiet Place is that they don't have any bullcrap. Oh, we're gonna have a huge intro of all this shit happen, whatever else. It just starts.
Yeah, it just
You don't know where these things came from, what happened, or why. All you know
origin
is that
story.
No, it just happened.
Yeah,
it just happened. Like this thing just happened, and it's already happened, and people are living with it, and people are living in their own little home clusters. But they use torches and lights each night to basically signal to each other. They go, "We're still here."
Yeah,
right.
And basically do that whole. We communicate by light to say we're still here, our numbers are still together, or we've lost someone, or something's happened somewhere else. So people can signal to each other to say, "Okay, may need to move," or anything like that. And also, it's really good because the daughter in it, she actually herself is deaf.
Yes.
The actress herself.
Yeah.
And they say she is absolutely excellent in being a young girl in that world who's deaf anyway, but also having hearing parents and siblings and still having to work around with them. And the tragedy that happens almost immediately at the very beginning, partly because of her deafness. And that sort of plagues her the rest of the movie.
You know what the thing is though? Like I remember when I was watching some of the previews for this, because I watched some of the trailers, I was like, this looks fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And I had this thought though. Because at some point in one of the trailers, they were by a waterfall.
Yeah.
And I believe they were talking at the waterfall because the waterfall was covering the sound that they were making or something.
Yeah.
Like, so I was like, well, wait a minute. Why don't they just move out to the fucking coast and live on the shoreline? Because if they did that, there's always the sound of the ocean and the waves coming in, crashing all the time. That would, pretty much cover up all the noise that they would be making. I
don't think the volume would be enough, because the point is, it's like they're standing directly under that waterfall. So any words they say are pretty much killed, like the sound waves and everything killed out by the waterfall because it's so loud. The ocean's not loud.
I don't know. Have you ever been to the ocean?
Yes, I have, but you can still speak clearly to another person near you and not have to shout over the noise of the ocean.
That's
and
fair, but still,
the way these things work is a case of picking out noise that's different from normal everyday, like trees and whatnot. That's what they're aiming for.
It's a minor quibble, but
no, it's a total minor. It's like like I said, kind of just a teeny little thing there.
But nonetheless, movies like this need to be celebrated and, of course, supported, because we seem to be in the age now of reboots, remakes, and endless sequels. And we've got something here that was actually someone gave a shit about and tried with. So fair play to them for that. I fully respect them for this. I really do.
It seems to be
Krasinski was actually, didn't he direct and write it too?
He co-wrote it and he has directed it, and obviously Emily Blunt is his wife.
Right.
So they've pulled off something brilliant here.
Yeah, I mean, like, see that, and this is another, like, let me kind of harken back to what we were saying earlier. I was like, with the DIY thing, granted, it's a little bit different circumstances, but basically, it's kind of the same though, because Krasinski actually started off as a page at NBC. He did it himself. He got in there. He got into the system. And I forget where he became. I think he became a writer on Saturday Night Live or something like that after being a page or one of the shows. I forget what it was, but anyway, he did it himself, and now he's doing it himself. He may be, he's a Hollywood actor. He's famous. He's done like The Office and all these other things.
Yeah.
But like he's writing and he's making his own stuff not outside of the studio system, but adjacent to it. So he's like. Yeah. It's like, so when I see stuff like that, when I see people that are creators that are actually, putting their money where their mouths are to a certain extent and doing things like this, granted, he's got, some sway because he's famous or whatever.
Yeah.
But still though, he got there, he did it himself, he made it happen. It's like that's even more exciting proposition.
But I think what we're seeing because the movie industry, there's not that many studios left. Disney keeps eating them. So we're going to see more and more of this independent stuff, because really there's only Sony, Disney, Fox is gone.
Paramount, Lionsgate, Paramount.
But there's every year there's less of them because they keep getting bought up by Disney. Sony, to be honest, I reckon is circling the drain in a major way.
Dude, Sony's terrible.
Yeah, like
for example, they're greenlighting the goddamn Faith movie, and you're like, what?
And the Emoji movie and Ghostbusters remake, and shall we go on?
They bet the farm on the bloody Emoji movie, and I'm like, oh, that is a terrible bet.
Oh God, yeah. No, I think there's probably like Warner Brothers, Universal, Sony, Fox Digital. There's probably about like 10 or 15 like major studios that are still kind of around out there.
You remember, a lot of those studios are like they're only sub studios of a larger organization. Paramount, I have to look up, but yeah, like it's they're narrowing because it's just Disney's camping more and more of the IP now that they bought Fox. I mean, Ripley is now a Disney princess.
Jesus.
And also on the independent thing, is like I quite like my action, thriller, horror movies, sci-fi movies. Some of the best horror and thriller type movies are coming out from independent people.
Yeah.
I'm like,
well, that's always the case.
I was like, they're just taking over as far as that goes, because and especially if you really like your good thrillers and action or horror, Korea is making some of the best right now.
Train to Busan.
Train to Busan, yes.
Oh, that's great.
It's so ridiculous. I'm not sure if it's still on Netflix, but it's a real case of you're going to want to have a box of tissues nearby. Pandora.
Yeah, it's still on Netflix.
Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially, it's a if a major earthquake or whatever else happened in Korea, and their version of Chernobyl, basically.
Yeah.
And following these guys, and they're doing it very realistically in the whole what happens to people within range and whatnot of once it goes down, all the guys working on trying to stabilize it to save as many people as they can to sort of stop it from completely blowing and taking out the entire area, even though it's like a lot of people are already basically got a death sentence from the doses they've gotten just from being there.
Right,
and it's very realistic. It's portrayal of all these people just working and working till they literally drop from radiation poisoning, trying to contain this thing. And you follow one particular guy who starts off with the sort of, I guess you could say, so cliche-ish, oh, he's lazy, he slept in, rah-rah-rah, he's getting grumped at by his grandmother and whatnot, set up to work, and he's one of the workers. And it's him and a few of his mates that basically work their way, get trapped inside, but they actively work their way through, because the whole time they're like, well, we come to the conclusion that we're not going to survive this no matter what, but we're going to keep pushing as long as our bodies can basically keep us moving to basically stop this from going completely kablooey. So we may not make it, but our families will, or at least give them a chance to make it, because they make it very clear that everyone there that's basically managed to get out and all that, they have had some degree of a dose of radiation. Exactly how bad, they don't really get too much in, but it's sort of heavily hinting that pretty much everyone's going to have some form of illness later on. But he's making the difference between they can survive it versus this is going to go and wipe out everyone and everything. And it is very blunt with its handling of it. No fluffing things up. But it does show them from being like the average guy's heroes, where they have moments where they just break down, bawling their eyes out because they're just so terrified and whatnot, but they still keep going. So it's definitely a movie to watch if you want sort of an actiony, really, basically just a really good movie.
All right. Well, on to the next one then. The cinematic marvel that was Red Sparrow.
Oh, I forgot about that. Wait. You're being sarcastic, aren't you?
Yeah, this is a movie that was apparently hated by both fans and critics.
Was it as bad as Atomic Blonde?
I'm not sure, but
I'm not kidding. It came up Black Widow. It was Black Widow. Name, right? It's essentially, I'm a woman who's Soviet. Basically, it was Black Widow with its
right. Yeah.
It's GoBots.
Yeah.
It's GoBots.
Oh goddamn!
GoBots Black Widow, right? It
Right.
was just basically the Black Widow movie done really shit.
Yeah.
Oh damn!
Now the funny thing about this was, and I don't know if this is true or so, I think it's an urban myth that allegedly Jennifer Lawrence challenged Trump supporters not to see her movies. And she said this before the release of Mother, which was a commercial failure. And now, obviously, we've got Black Widow, which is a commercial failure. The Black Widow, sorry, Red Sparrow. Yeah, beg your pardon. There you go. So you think, yeah, if that's true, you really got to keep your gob shut. So,
shut up,
yeah, that was. Now we'll skip that one completely and move on to the one that Wombat's been waiting for.
Well, I mean, no, let's talk about her nude scene.
No, let's not.
Why? Let's talk about it.
No.
You'd rather watch some tennis, would you? Okay.
Yeah. Now, Pacific Rim Uprising.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I know Wombat's been waiting for this one. Movie needed $350 million to break even. Made apparently about 290. 43% critics and fans ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. I avoided the list because there was no Charlie Hunnam, there was no Guillermo del Toro. And I just thought, you know what, if the originals aren't even on board with this, I'm not going to bother. And it looks like it was a good call.
I didn't like it because I looked at the trailers, and what struck me was it was too bright, it was too cheerful. Right? You looked at the original one. No, it just hear me out, you looked at the original one when the kaiju were attacking. They were basically treated as an analogy of a cyclone or a hurricane or an unstoppable nature event. It was always dark and it was always raining. Whereas this one, you're like, okay, it's bright, it's colorful. This looks like a kid show.
Yeah.
And you totally removed the whole. You need two people to run a Jaeger. I'm like, that was one of the major character, things.
Well, did they only did that for that little girl's little tiny Jaeger though?
No. In the trailers that I saw, it basically the way they portrayed it in the trailers.
Oh wait, have you not seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh no, okay, I've seen it. So I actually Yeah.
Okay. No, but then it must have been really terrible trailer then because in the trailer it hinted that everyone had their own Jaeger and you didn't need two people to run them anymore.
Nah.
Right.
No, that is definitely not the case when you actually watch the movie. No.
Well, then again, their marketing department completely screwed up.
They beefed
but again, it was just too bright, too cheerful, and it just looked wrong. Like the other thing is the trailer stuff, the way that the Jaegers were moving, they were moving too fluidly compared to the first movie. In the first movie, the Jaegers felt like they had weight and they were giant, 10,000 ton.
Oh yeah.
Whereas
and they needed rockets in the elbow to make their arms move fast enough to punch something. Yeah. Stuff like that. Yeah, no, for sure.
And this one, it's just like they're just too fluid, too cartoony. No Del Toro on board. I'm like, nah, I have no interest. Like the thing is, I think Del Toro was originally on board and then he bailed because I think from memory, the story of the second movie, the original story that was supposed to be was that the alien creatures or whatever salvage whatever was left of Gypsy Danger and go, well, we can now make, hybrid kaiju, which are both machine and biological, and basically go for a second bite at the cherry. But I don't know how much of that made it into the actual movie.
It didn't. Well, it kind of did. Do you want me to tell you what happened? I mean,
go for
it. Can I spoil it?
Yeah, spoil it.
Okay, so basically, Charlie Day is back. He was one of the scientists in the first film. Basically, you know how he was always doing the mind meld thing with the brain that he had? Well, apparently they took him over, and he programmed in a thing where the aliens the kaijus could infect the Jaegers and turn them into kaiju things, and then they could make parts, and the parts would come together. And then,
seriously?
Yeah, kinda. I mean, that's part of it. It's a little bit dumber than that though, too, because they get all these kaiju parts that come together like a Transformers fucking combiner set, where like all the pieces come together and make one giant one.
Like, nope.
Yeah. But overall, I mean, honestly, I hated the first movie. I fucking hated it. I couldn't stand it. It was like, and it's funny because I hated it because of the thing that it was trying to ape was like kind of like, like 70s style kaiju Japanese cartoon type stuff. And that didn't translate to live action for me at all. I thought the dialogue was fucking awful, and we just lost Justin. Uh-oh. You guys there?
Yeah, we're still here.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Well, that's weird. I guess we're still
5
live.
minutes
So
to come back for, this is going to drop out.
yeah. So all right, I'll make it quick. Anyway, so they yeah, I didn't like the first one because I thought it was terrible. I thought the writing was bad. It looked great, like you said, like when the kaiju were on, they, you know, it was like there was like dramatic changes in the way the atmosphere happened, and as you know, became rainy and shitty and terrible and all that kind of thing. And this one, like you said, it's like it's very, very kid friendly and very cartoony, and it's fine. There's nothing great about it. There's nothing horrible about it. It's just it's middle of the road. It does the least amount of effort to get by, and it's just kind of like, yeah, whatever. It didn't annoy me to the point of hating it like the first one did, but you know, whatever. And the single kaiju thing is only the little girl made her own little robot, and otherwise though everybody else, it was two people and things at least. So but yeah, we lost Justin. Shit.
While we wait for him to return, his laptop's probably just needing a reboot. We can probably go on to Infinity Wars Part 1, because I reckon that was going to be on the list.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen that yet. Have you?
Yeah, I've seen it, and I was...
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Oh, there he comes. Welcome back.
Oh, hey, Justin. So nice of you to join us. Yeah. Hello.
He's back, kind of. We could keep talking smack about him, and he can't do anything.
Just sit there and take it.
Take it, bitch. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen Infinity War yet. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
I was bored, and the thing is, there was a number of things that came out that were discussed about it, and one of the things that kind of one of my friends, someone else pointed out, but I couldn't verbalize it at the time, was it's a hero movie where no one does anything really heroic.
Okay. Well, they're saving that up for the second part.
Yeah, but the thing that bugs me about the second one, and I think it's bad timing for Marvel releasing Ant-Man and Wasp and Captain Marvel between Infinity Wars Part 2, is Thanos is wearing a massive reset button, right? So it's anyone who dies or there's you know what's coming. It's the same thing as when they killed Superman. You know the freaking reset is coming. They're just gonna res everyone and go,
of course,
you know,
Mulligan.
And you can't talk to us.
But that's the thing, though. That it's gonna be Captain Marvel that's gonna do it, though. You know, she's gonna be the hero that saves the day.
Yeah, because they had that press conference where they were basically insinuating that Captain Marvel is going to take over from Iron Man as the central character of the universe. And I'm like, really? You're replacing Robert Downey Jr. with Brie Larson? Have fun with that.
Robert Downey Jr., who made this entire franchise happen with Iron Man.
Yeah, it's
if
like
Iron Man hadn't succeeded, it was between him and who was it that played Stain?
Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, between the two of them that made Iron Man, because it pretty much didn't have a script or anything like that. But if that hadn't succeeded, none of this would exist right now.
Yeah, and you know what? And not to shit on Brie Larson too much, but I'm sorry, but she's not charismatic enough to carry the entire Marvel universe on her back like Downey Jr. did.
God, no. And the thing is, my prediction for this is they'll do the mass reset button to bring everyone back. Iron Man will retire and get replaced with what's-her-face from Wakanda, who's going to be the new Iron Girl.
Oh, you think so? She's going to be Riri?
I reckon she's going to be Riri.
Yeah, probably
Captain America's going to retire, because I know that...
Evans wants out of the contract.
Yeah, he's had enough. So then Bucky will take up that mantle, which is fine. That's what with the comics.
Him or Falcon.
It'll be Falcon if the Disney diversity rot has.
But you know what though, dude? Seriously, look, I've said this for fucking like the last 5 years since Winter Soldier came out. Give me a fucking Cap Falcon. I fucking love Anthony Mackie. He was so fucking good. Anthony Mackie has the kind of screen presence that could fucking carry some movies. Like, he's not quite on the level of Robert Downey Jr., but come on, dude. That motherfucker is so good. I love that dude. He's so fucking pimp, man.
But
oh my
again,
God,
I just think that what we're seeing now with the Captain Marvel stuff, I reckon the diversity rot has leaked over into the Marvel business side now.
To a certain degree, yeah.
Yeah, I reckon with basically Marvel Cinematic Universe 2.0 after Thanos, they get the gauntlet and they reset the universe.
Right.
You're gonna see I said, you're going to see basically a Riri character put in. You're going to have a whole heap of these other ones that are going to be replaced with their current equivalent, and it's going to be bad.
I'm really kind of like I don't want to say I'm nervous about it because it's not like I'm going to lose anything if something bad happens, but it's like I love the Cap movies. I love Chris Evans as Captain America. I thought, man, they're some of my favorite fucking movies. I absolutely love Winter Soldier and First Avenger are just fucking fantastic. Joe Johnston did such a great job on the First Avenger, and fucking Winter Soldier was so fucking good. Such a great spy thriller.
That's the thing, but it was early MCU when you know, before the Disney, basically because when they did the deal and they had the studio, they put up they built a big business wall between Disney and the Marvel studios, so you didn't get that influence. The problem is now that it's been how many years? It's like been nearly 12 years. In that you've had enough staff churn that, you know, Disney's had enough say over the hiring and the rest of it. You've now, you know, all the original crew who are there, you know, in upper management are more probably cycled out. You now have the Disney rot in, so you know I reckon it's going to go downhill. We're going to see more
I hope not, because I'm like I said, I'm so invested in what they've done so far. I'm worried about what they're going to be doing.
Setting a standard low, dude. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here.
You know, I know, but that's the easy thing to say, man. You know, and I'm not trying to be a dick, but it's just like it's so easy to say that. It's like,
I know, but I'm just trying to.
I'm a bit more hopeful about it. Yeah,
I know, and it's going to be fun to see that hope die.
Possibly, but you know what? That's the thing, though.
That's a darling.
They've like, look, seriously. Here's the thing, like. Growing up, I couldn't have given a fuck about the Avengers. I hated Thor. I thought fucking the only Avenger character that I liked was Captain America. Like Iron Man was such a fucking joke. The Guardians of give me a fucking break. A fucking tree and a raccoon in space. Get the fuck out of here. Like seriously, all that shit was a complete fucking throwaway. And they brought Iron Man out. They took a D-list hero from Marvel and turned it into one of the fucking highest grossing things ever in 2008. I mean, look, I hate to be a fucking Marvel fanboy about it, but they made me a believer. I mean, they took all these properties that I did not give a fuck about, and they made me actually give a shit. Like, Avengers was great. Fuck Joss Whedon, but Avengers was great. Fucking Captain America movies were fucking fantastic. Guardians was so fucking funny. I mean, dude, seriously.
That is going to make the tragedy even worse when
Disney
possibly.
Well,
put the pillow over its face.
That's one of those. This is one of those things where time will tell, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And look, I want to be wrong. I really do. Don't. You know, I'm not wanting it to fail. I genuinely want to be wrong and proven wrong about this. But just I'm seeing all the signs now with Ant-Man and Wasp. With Captain Marvel and just the shit that's happening, I just see Disney's just walking into the room holding the pillow, just going, "Shh, no tears now, only dreams."
I mean, it could be, but I'm going to try and maintain some hope because I'm hopeful because I just want some more good movies.
Yeah.
Do you know why those other movies hit the mark so well?
Because nobody expected
writers. No, it's a combination of writers and the right actors placed in the right roles.
Yeah. I mean, James Gunn, who would have fucking thought they would hire him to do Guardians? I mean, come on. The guy was a trauma guy, you know. It's like,
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt, yeah, seriously.
He's supposed to be like a sensitive comedian.
Yeah. No, you're right. Well, they made a lot of great choices as far as who they got to be the. You know what? The one thing though, it really kind of makes me sad is that Edgar Wright didn't get to do Ant-Man. I would have loved to have seen his Ant-Man because, like, if it had half the charm that Shaun of the Dead had. Or Baby Driver, for that matter. Like, I mean, goddamn, Edward Wright is so fucking great. He's such a great director. He's got such an eye for this stuff. But I mean, in the Ant-Man that we got, it was fine. I thought it was all right. I wasn't like super impressed with it, like I was with a lot of the other stuff.
Considering the shit show it went through, and that it really didn't happen at all, the fact they managed to pull it off and make it still good movie was a huge surprise.
Well, we got 3 more films to talk about before we finish up on a little debate. One of them, is of course I Feel Pretty, which is Amy Schumer's. Which is Amy Schumer's.
Do we really have to talk about it?
We can skip it if you want, because
I mean, what's there to say?
Well, Amy sum it up. To sum it up, it made its budget back, but equally hated by fans and critics. You can leave that there.
Imagine that. That's a shocker.
Yeah. All right. So these last 2, then, if we're going to jump past that. The ones that I included specifically for you, Scott, because I thought I'd love to hear your thoughts on these. Now, DC animated movies tend to be in a league of their own because they are really good. I mean, you mentioned Master of the Phantasm earlier. I think a lot of Batman fans agree that's one of the best.
And Roger Ebert and fucking Robert, fucking Siskel and Ebert, I'm sorry. They fucking went back and they did an apology review of it because they fucked up. They're like, this is the best Batman movie made.
Yeah. So the first one to talk about is Batman Ninja, which is an anime version of Batman where he goes back to feudal Japan. Now, with this one and the next one, there's no... Yeah, I've seen it. I'll get to that in a second. Now, there's no information on budget for this one or the next one, but critics were at 75%, fans were at 42%.
Yeah.
Now, I watched this and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very unique take on it. You could tell it was a definite manga film because, you know, when a character gasps in a movie, they go, but when it happens in manga, they go, oh, like that as they gasp. And I know it sounds stupid, but it's such a...
No, it's a staple.
It's also a cultural thing as well. It's like everyone has
the animation.
Things.
There's two different styles of animations in this, which I thought were fantastic. The voice acting was on point, especially Tara Strong as Poison Ivy and of course Harley Quinn. But I enjoyed this. It was a very unique take, but I liked it. I mean, what did you think?
You know what? I kind of was just I don't want to say I was unimpressed because I thought it looked good, but I don't know, man. It just didn't get me. I didn't have any kind of investment in it. I was just kind of like, all right, I was watching it and it never got to the point where I was like super interested in what was going on because it felt kind of foregone. It was like, all right, okay, that's neat. It looks good. It's fine, whatever. But okay, Gorilla God double crossed him. Oh, shocker. Fucking, no, I don't know. I thought for me, it missed the mark. Okay. It was just fine. It was one of those things. I was just like, when I watched it, I was like, all right, cool. That's fine. Whatever. It wasn't like something like a Justice League Crisis on Two Earths where I was just like, holy shit, this is fucking great. Yeah. And I watched it like a million fucking times. Like that to me, that's one of the pinnacles of the DC animated universe, is Crisis on Two Earths. This fucking superlative voice cast, Gina Torres, James Woods, just a myriad of great voice talent. The story was really good. It was really fun. But yeah, it was just it was fine. It was okay. You know.
All right. And
I wish I had more to say. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to let you down.
Then the next one was Gotham by Gaslight, which was obviously based on the Elseworld story, which I think was the first ever Elseworld story DC did. Yeah, again, a bit of a gap between critics and fans. 86% critics, 86% critics, 62% fans. There you go. I watched this, and I'd also read the source material back when it came out, and I tell you what. They only loosely based it on the source material. They rewrote most of the story. And there's going to be a spoiler alert here for anyone that hasn't seen it. They even changed the identity of who Jack the Ripper was in the animated version.
Right.
And I didn't like it.
And I thought that was a pretty bold move, actually, too.
I thought it was a bold move, but I didn't like it because I just didn't like it.
Dude, I like that. That was the thing that got me. I was really stoked on that. I was like, are they going? Are they gonna? They're gonna. They did it.
Yeah, because
I was like, holy shit! They actually had the balls to do it. They went through with it.
But there wasn't much of a backstory as to how he became the Ripper, whereas in the comic book, there was, and it was explained. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the fight scenes in this were pretty awesome to watch.
Yeah.
But I was left very underwhelmed by it.
See, I liked it. I thought that, but I thought there was a lot of stuff that was kind of superfluous, like Poison Ivy. It's like she didn't need to be in this.
No,
like,
she didn't.
That was a complete throwaway.
Yeah.
Like you said, they didn't get terribly into the story of the Ripper and why he was the Ripper. When you get to the end and you find out who it is without spoiling it. I don't know if we want to spoil it or not, but I don't think we really need to. But when they do that, they kind of wrap it up in a tight little bow or whatever. But they didn't let Batman detect it. They didn't, let Batman do his Batman thing and figure out all these details and all this stuff like that in a very, in a broader sense, I guess. I mean, I liked it. The only problem I had with it was that the animation style was a little bit too clean and it was a little bit too bright.
Okay.
For that particular story, I really wish they would have kept it basically all at nighttime and would have made it more dark, like almost like the Spawn series from back in the 90s on HBO.
Yeah, I remember.
I wish it was like that. Like, I think that type of animation style would have suited this a lot better. Like, I thought it was good though. I thought the animation, I thought it looked decent. There weren't any like egregious problems with it per se. But I think a grittier, darker style could have really tonally helped this out quite a bit. But I liked it. I thought it was good. And like I said, at the end, like when they showed who was the Ripper, I was like, holy shit, they went through with it. They had the balls to do it. I was kind of impressed by that, honestly. Okay. But I mean, I thought it was good overall though. I enjoyed it. I mean, it wasn't like Son of Batman, which was probably the most shitty fucking movie I've ever seen. Aside from Ishtar back in like 1981 or whatever the fuck that came out.
So I wanted to finish up on a discussion of all of these topics in general. Now, obviously, this is inspired in part by the passing of Steve Ditko this week, and last year, where every celebrity actor you probably grew up with passed away. Do you think part of the problem we've got now with modern entertainment, be it who is either doing it or making it or running it, is helping to put off people from seeing it? Because obviously there's the quote-unquote creative talents at Marvel and DC now, which appear to be pushing fans away. You've got various actors and actresses that really don't seem to be appealing to the mass audiences like the old star used to. And part of this is we see this on Twitter, especially, where the personalities of some of these folks sort of make you think, you know what, I don't want to see anything that you've got coming out because this is the way you really are. Nah. Do you think that sort of thing is helping to drive people away?
Well, you want to go first, or shall I?
Well, I'll try and be brief. Right. I think when you look at this, it's kind of hard to put it under one umbrella, because when you're looking at comics specifically, like I think we can, like I alluded to it earlier when I was talking about how the comic companies are trying to bring women into the demographic of their thing, but they're not trying to do it through any means that's altruistic. They're not like, oh, we want to get more women involved because they have money. And that's, so when you dig it down, when you get right down to it, what they're doing is they're trying to get women involved because they're an untapped resource of revenue. Yeah. So a lot of what's going on in comics is it's essentially it's about money. And granted, you can say that about movies and video games and all this other kind of stuff too. But like, I feel like it's a little bit different when it comes to the comics stuff though. Yeah. As far as like the you're kind of saying about like actors being like these kind of like maybe like tentpole figures, I guess is a way to put it. It's like, whereas there aren't like as many, I guess. Yeah. Like you said, part of the problem is like there used to be a sense of decorum within Hollywood where people didn't spout their bullshit. Yes. And they kept it to themselves, because you're seeing very plainly, you see people going on fucking Twitter all the time and fucking spilling their spaghetti, and people are like, well, fuck you, I'm not going to support you because you fucking say this, that, or the other. One example I can think of was, I think it was either early this year or late last year, Brie Larson had tweeted about a security guard that asked her for her phone number. And she decided to tag his company in the tweet as if to get him in trouble. And I thought, well, aren't you some sort of bitch? Because obviously this guy has decided to try and obviously shoot above his weight to get a girl who is obviously a hot piece of... He's obviously a very attractive lady. I had to stop myself. And she's gone and done that to him. And you think, wow. And then you've got John Boyega, as mentioned earlier, with Star Wars, and some of his back and forth fans. And when someone said a specific view to him about the way Star Wars was going, he responded, "We don't care." Yeah. And that kind of summed it up for me.
Yeah. And the fans go, "Great, we don't care either, and we have money, and you're not getting it."
Right. Well, that was going to be my ultimate point. So but thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. But it seems to be a number of factors. You've got the behavior of the basically the creators and actors and the rest of it. I think the other thing is that you're not seeing... I actually had this discussion. This goes back a few weeks ago. I was having a discussion with a mate of mine on Twitter, Bay Shiba, about the Fast and the Furious movies.
Yeah.
And why they make a ridiculous amount of money, and why we've had like 8 or 9 of them or whatever now.
Yeah.
And it ties in with another a thing an article I was reading, and it brought up the Bond movies and how Bond movies used to sell to the male power fantasy. And I'm like, that's why movies like Fast and the Furious and Expendables are making billions and billions and billions, because they're the only movies now that actually tailor or aim at that market. Everyone else is going quote unquote woke. And the thing is, everyone's sick of it. We go to movies to be entertained, to escape this shit. When you're going into a movie and they're just bringing out the bloody woke cricket bat and just smacking you over the head with it repeatedly and breaking immersion, you're like, I'm not entertained. This is reminding me of all the naggy shit that I do not, that I'm trying to avoid in real life. I'm not going to bother going. It's just a negative reinforcement. Right? Yeah. So people are going off to do other things. So, they're saying, oh, well, you nerds need to get out of the basement. Fine. We're getting out of the basement. Yeah. We're going out. We're doing other things. And, oh, look, suddenly all your movies and games and comics and everything are flopping because, you've been abusing us for the good part of 2-3 years.
Because it reminds me of when the third rebooted Star Trek movie, Simon Pegg said that Trump was a combination of Trump and the Brexiteers. Now, I was a Brexit voter. I'll point this out now if he wants to come and kill me later. And as a result, I thought, well, you know what? I ain't seeing that. Fuck you, Peg. Yeah. And obviously, I can't prove that it impacted the sales, but the third Star Trek reboot movie did take the least of the films so far.
Well, to be fair, it was the least good of the 3. So
yeah, okay, obviously as well.
I mean, I love the first one. Like, I love the first one.
Well, that's a conversation for another time. But it reminds me of the third verse from Billy Joel's Piano Man. Well, hang on, wait for it. Where he said it's a pretty good crowd for a Saturday, and the manager gives me a smile because he knows that it's me they've been coming to see to forget about life for a while.
Right.
And we just can't do that anymore because politics is everywhere now, and these entertainers don't seem to understand. We want to get away from that shit.
Right. And well, another thing that they don't understand, apparently, which is crazy to me, which is like bonkers, go nuts crazy, is that they have eschewed their fan base, their traditional fan base, in favor of these, of the PC crowd, if you will, what we called back in the 90s, the PC crowd. And we're talking about, it's fucking ridiculous, right? Because these companies were built on the demographic of men 18 to 35. They literally, these mega corporations, these billion-dollar a year companies that are making billions and billions and billions of dollars on these franchises were built on the fans, men 18 to 35, traditionally. And for some reason, they have come up with this idea, and I'm going to tell you what, I say for some reason, intersectional feminism, thank you very much, and dickheads like fucking Anita Sarkeesian and her ilk, they've come up with this idea that they have to fucking push away that demographic and bring in another demographic to replace them, because now the 18 to 35 male is this disposable, untouchable fucking leper colony basically. And I don't understand how they don't get that was a bad move. It's like the people that literally the foundation of your companies, of your mega corporations, you're going to tell them to fuck off? Really?
Yeah.
That's really? That's like that's like I don't even know. I don't even have a good analogy for it. It's fucking insane though. It just doesn't
echo
make
chamber.
I remember talking
this is the epitome of echo chamber.
Well, yeah. Because I remember talking about this with another author friend, Adam Smith, about Star Wars, and he had the collection of the Extended Universe books on his shelf.
Right.
And of course, essentially, when Disney took over, all those books, the stories from all those books were gone. Yep. They mean nothing now. And there was a video that appeared.
30 years of continuity gone.
Yeah. And there was a video that appeared on Twitter early December last year, which featured scenes from The Last Jedi with Johnny Cash's version of Hurt playing over it. And I tell you what, it fit. I mean, what have I become? My sweetest friend. Everything I know goes away in the end. At the end, it's got Mark Hamill narrating, remember, kids, with Hollywood, it's not if it's good, if it makes money. and
Right.
it's a picture of Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams followed by the Disney logo.
Right.
I can't remember who made it, but it was a fantastic video.
No, it's perfect.
And I think the effects are reaching further now, because obviously we had the Toys R Us business go out of business this year.
That's declining sales plus Mitt Romney's company Bain Capital doing
pulling it apart.
Yeah, but there were various pictures that appeared on Twitter where a lot of the shelves in these stores were empty, but there were tons of Star Wars toys still on the shelves they couldn't shift.
I went back the week before they closed, and there was still tons of Star Wars shit there, dude. It was crazy.
The funny thing is, going to a funny one is back when Epic Rap Battles of History was still a thing. Unfortunately,
I remember that.
Pulled off by the YouTube Adpocalypse. They actually did one with Jim Henson and Stan Lee. Now, it's actually really good, because what happens is Walt Disney comes in and just completely owns them both, because he does own them both. And there's a GIF I have floating around in my list I made from it, just going with the Walt Disney character going, "Yeah, I'm the Disneyland lord of your intellectual property," right? So it's a really good one. If you get a chance, look it up.
Yeah.
But it just sums it up, where Disney, in a lot of cases, is like, "Yeah, I own your shit, and I'm just going to churn out this crap over and over and over again." And we're seeing that with all studios. It's just they're just churning out reboots, remakes, and the rest of it, because they want something that's profitable, safe, predictable, and profitable. They don't want to take
absolutely.
risks.
Yeah.
No, you hit it right on the head right there. It's like you've got to be a proven property, because they're risk averse. These businesses are risk averse. They're in the business to make money, and if they have something like, and perfect example is video games, Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty. It's like those things blew the fuck up. Yeah. And then they started making a lot of money. It's like, all right, well, let's make one every year then, and we'll make this kind of money every single year. And then 4 or 5 years, it's like, oh wait, why are we making less money now? It's because you're getting into the ground. It's all been done.
And
I'm just special. Again, I was just frustrated with gaming with Cyberpunk 2077 CDPR. You're just blue balling me so hard, guys. Come on.
Because it goes back to, again, the people involved, because they appear now, especially the actors, they appear to be more celebrities than actors.
Yeah.
And
just note that you have the professional actors like Tom Hiddleston and the rest of it. You don't hear from them.
Dude,
actors,
Hiddleston is great.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like
have you seen any of his interviews? Have you watched any of them?
Yes, I've seen his interviews.
Hiddleston is brilliant. He is such a fan, and he actually, like, when people ask him stuff, he actually cares, and he's really thoughtful about the way he answers questions. It's like, and I'm like I went on this dive. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's like I went through this dive for maybe 3 hours on YouTube watching Hiddleston interviews, and it's totally mundane bullshit. And all the actors with him are saying, well, we did this, and we, they said the usual canned responses, and then Hiddleston's like, oh, well, let me think about that for a minute. And he gives these very thoughtful, very, very honest, answers. I'm like, God, Tom Hiddleston is fucking cool, man. He's a dude.
You don't see any of the bullshit from Tom Hiddleston, Chris Hemsworth.
No.
Again, those guys, it's like they're actors, and then they go off and have their private lives and do their thing. So, it's.
But we don't have that anymore, do we?
Yeah.
No. With Hiddleston,
a lot of these guys.
Well, as I say, with Hiddleston, he's an example of how actors are basically, I guess you could say, brought up in the UK with how the system works.
Mm-hmm.
In that Hiddleston had to work, and you had to actually have talent to get anywhere, because when it comes to UK, it's like you can't do TV or anything unless you've done so many years of stage work.
Yeah.
And you have to, I remember seeing a thing with Tom Hiddleston explaining how acting classes and that work in the UK compared to the US, and he's like, you will not even get looked at unless you can basically repeat any one of Shakespeare's plays when asked.
And
he's a consummate professional.
Memorizing thing.
The whole thing.
It reminds me
of a memorizing thing, but also to prove that you know how to act.
Yeah.
And you have to have worked on stage to prove that you can actually project your voice, can actually act enough to project what you're doing from the person that's way in the freaking back before you even be considered for anything, even the most simple of TV work.
It reminds me of watching the Inside the Actor Studio interview with Michael Caine, when he was asked about scripts, and Kane said, "An actor looks at the script and says, how can I adjust myself to suit this? Right. A celebrity thinks, how can I adjust this to suit me?"
Right.
And that was one of the reasons, apparently, why the new version of The Mummy failed, because Cruise got involved and he wanted more control with the whole thing.
Cruise was running it because it's his production company, because that's the only way he gets work these days.
Yeah.
Well, and apparently there were some problems with Russell Crowe as well, with his ego getting in the way. Imagine that. Crowe, right?
Edward Norton's another one. That's why you don't see Edward Norton in a lot of things.
Yeah.
Apparently he's very difficult to work with.
And apparently one of the reasons I think why the new Pacific Rim also didn't do very well is because John Boyega isn't exactly a box office draw outside of Star Wars.
He's not even a box office draw for Star Wars.
That brings back my point of when he was going off his little tit on Twitter. It's like, dude, you do not have the pull to be able to basically throw your weight around like that when you have none.
Mm. So it does seem that we're getting left with actors and actresses that aren't really worth the attention like the old generation was.
Yeah, and also I find that it's very hard to find people to look up to and even remotely idolize these days because of information highway and these people getting their, like I said, letting their mouths run, getting their sticky fingers all over keyboards and basically doing brain to finger filter out and spewing all their bullshit. Thusly, any credence people, like any sort of idealizer people had of them, like I'd like to be like them as far as an actor, or I'd love to be able to write like that person or draw like that person, like as the inspiration, immediately gets killed by their horrendous behavior. Because going back to Tom Hiddleston, and I forgot one interview where he's basically gone, yeah, I'm not going to be polite. He's actually said, I'm going to swear, in that when he was up and coming, there was a very well-known British stage actor he was absolutely idolized since he was a kid. And basically his drive to basically work his ass off to get where he ended up now. But he said the night he got to meet the guy and work on a production with him was the night he's like, yeah, he basically made the decision. He's like, no matter where I go in the world, I'm never going to be like him. Because he said the first night I met him, and the first sight I see of him is basically tearing the shit out of one of the stage crew.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they stepped in front of him or something.
Right.
And he's just basically gone, he said, I've just looked at him and gone, my God, that man is a complete and utter cock. He just blurted that out. He's like, that man's a complete and utter cock. Sorry for the swearing, but that's what came into my head. And I decided, I'm never going to be a complete and utter cock like him. Yeah. I'm going to remember where I come from. I'm going to remember all the people I've worked with to get where I am. And by hell, am I never going to be him. Because if I ever am him, I've told family to basically come up to me and give me a good walloping to pull my head back in.
See, and that's something that when you look at actors today, it's like something I think we've said it all but in words outright, is that there is a level of tact and a level of class that so many people just don't have because of social media, like you're saying, Peter. Like people can just air out their fucking terrible opinions. It's like, and they're terrible opinions. Christ, what am I saying? That's such a dumb thing to say. I apologize.
Well, no, I get what you mean, because
you know what I mean. Because people
react. You mentioned James Gunn earlier. He started going off on one about
James
Trump.
Woods.
No, James Gunn. I mean
James Gunn.
He started going off on Twitter about Trump, and the first comment I saw, I think, was, "Oh, come on, not you too." And I thought, I understand that totally.
I find what it is the whole. You say it used to be the term of brain to mouth filter, but now it's brain to fingers filter is non-existent. So people they're not stopping to think of what they're typing. They're not stopping to think, maybe I shouldn't write this out, where you'd normally do the same thing if you're talking to someone. It's like, oh, wait, when you have that little thing pop in your head, is like, I want to say this. Then you have that split second of, I better rethink that, because
that's a lesson.
That little sentence or that little word may basically cause a massive shitstorm here. So I'm not going to say it. Yeah. Whereas these people, they just because they're not using that filter. Yeah. They're just basically dumping their scree everywhere, and then wondering why people aren't happy.
Yeah, because obviously that's a lesson Roseanne Barr could have learned from earlier this year.
Yeah,
to be totally fair.
Yeah, I got taught that trick in business. If you're going to write an angry email to your boss, send it to yourself first.
Yeah.
Right.
Basically, once you've cooled down, just basically write it out, send it to yourself, and then give it 24 hours and go back and read it. Right? And just, saves you. Not, I haven't had to do that ever, but you know, if you're going to write an angry email to someone, write it out, send it to yourself first.
Yeah.
And then just give yourself a few hours or whatever. Just let the angry hormones wash out of your system. Go back and read it, and if you still feel the same way, send it. But you know, it's people just need there needs to be some sort of time delay. Do you really want to send this tweet?
Well, no. Here's part of the problem too: is that this whole thing is exacerbated by the fact that there are a lot of bad actors out there that are just waiting for somebody to say something so that they can go after them. You know, we see this. It's like the social justice people, if we want to, you know, invoke the dreaded SJW boogeyman. It's like these people are so ready to just pounce on anybody they can, just to one up each other. Just look how I went after this guy, and I did, and that's part of the reason why I fucking dipped out of Twitter, because I was just when I brought up that whole thing about the composer thing. Looking at like thousands and thousands of responses and people trying to twist it into something that they could use against somebody else, where I was trying to make a legitimate point about the fact that, you know, we're ignoring women that have done work in the past. I was trying to be, you know, very sincere and, you know, earnest about it, and make a legitimate point and take the people that were saying this stuff in their articles to task for being incorrect and not doing the work of being an editor or being a writer that researches or doing journalism, you know? Yeah. And then I see all these people trying to turn it into a bludgeon to use against other people that they don't like because they don't share the same politics, or they don't like women, or they don't like men, or they don't like fucking straight people or white people or black, whatever the fuck it is. You know, it's like, I see this thing devolving into that, and I see what Twitter does. And that happens every single day. And like I said, my thing got like 10,000 plus retweets, right? But there are things that are going around on Twitter that have hundreds of thousands of retweets that are doing that same fucking thing. Where there's this Twitter has turned into this. Basically, Twitter is a straw man. Twitter is it is an electronic straw man that can be used against anybody at any given moment, and you see it happen every single day. And that was kind of like the breaking point for me. I was just like, I'm trying to have a very earnest, sincere conversation here about things that, you know, that are very real, and people are turning it into a bludgeon. And I got so fucking sick of it, and I was just like, and seeing all the shit that was going on, like I said, that people were trying to turn this into a weapon to use against others to suit their, you know, their cause, or, you know, their wokeness, or whatever the fuck it was. I'm just like, you guys just don't get it. Cause like there were so many people who were like, well, you know, I don't know why you brought up Yoko Kanno, you know, because she was accused of plagiarism for blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, but did she do this thing? She did this thing, right? Well, yeah, she did it, but she was accused. No, she did it, right? She did it, right? She did it, right? I'm like, and then people couldn't get past that. They're like, oh, but you should have picked somebody better or different because, you know, she was accused of plagiarism. I was like, that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I don't care if she's accused of plagiarism. I don't care if she was accused of using a fucking purple crayon to draw a blue fucking the color in a Sonic in a coloring book. It doesn't fucking matter. It has nothing to do with the fucking fact that she did the work back in the 90s and in the 80s and whenever else she was composing. But that's what this has devolved into. It's just devolved into an electronic straw man where people try and one up each other and go after each other constantly. It's just like, fuck, there's so much noise. It's just all noise. I just don't want to be a part of it anymore.
You just end up guys like me. It's just like, I don't take it seriously. It's all shit posting all the time.
Well, that's the thing. Like I was saying though, there are bad actors. There's like that wind people up in these situations. It's like, you know, shit posting is funny, but the problem is though, is that the normies and the journalists and the, you know, the news sites don't understand. They can't differentiate. They can't. Not only can they not differentiate, but sometimes they willfully, ignorantly do not differentiate to suit their own purposes.
I'm not even going to be that generous with them. It's not sometimes. It's most of the time.
Oh, I think it is most. I would say most.
It's even started to spread into books as well, because there was an author this week. Patrick S. Tomlinson, who's got a writing contract with Tor Books, he brought out a book and he made a point to make sure people knew there was gay characters and strong women characters.
Oh, I had an exchange with him this week.
And someone pointed out to him, I don't care, I just want a decent story. And then Patrick turned and said, I don't give a fuck what you think.
I had an exchange with him this week. He is a dick.
Yeah. And I mean, from my perspective, I'm an indie author who's trying to make a name for myself. I would dare talk to people like that who I thought maybe I could sell a book to. But when you've got a contract behind you, like with Tor Books, it appears you can do what you want, because obviously he's still doing it now with people on Twitter, calling them names.
Any pushback from the publisher?
Yeah, no.
Well, as far as I'm aware, there's no pushback from the publisher, but check out the reviews for his latest book on Amazon, either .com or .co.uk.
Right.
They're not. Some of them haven't been pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I had
there's the bludgeon
this week, and he was the most condescending, smug, excuse my language, cunt. I'm like, just waiting for the inevitable sexual assault allegation. And I was like, just wait for the crocodiles to come for him.
Waiting for the Me Too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a time.
Yeah, that's the problem I have now with things like Twitter and that. It's like, once upon a time when you used to be able to like someone for what they did, but still be able to hate them as a person, because that's how my dad explained the whole why he liked certain football players, yet would always call them out for being dipshits and whatnot. And he's basically like, I can appreciate that they're excellent players, but they're complete wankers as people.
Yeah.
Now you can't make that separation anymore.
No, you can't.
Because but the way that was then, it's like a case of, they're the way they behave versus their sporting career, or the way they behave versus their writing, you can separate the two. But now with social media, you can't, because these people can, as happened with you, and that is a case of they can come at you directly.
Yeah.
And spit on you directly as a consumer. Thusly, it kills that separation.
Yeah, because my daughter's a fan of J.K. Rowling, and I said to her, I appreciate you like her books, but don't follow her on social media. You will be disappointed if you do.
See, but okay, I'm gonna be devil's advocate here again for a second, because I'm one of the people that thinks that you shouldn't separate the artist from the work that they do, because I'm also one of the kind of people who is like, support the things that you believe in, support the people that you believe in, that are saying the things that you agree with, and not to just be like a reinforcing circle of patting each other on the back, like, oh, you're doing the thing that I like, but like, if you see somebody is doing good, support that, put your money where your mouth is. If you see somebody is doing something bad that you don't agree with, don't support them. So it's like, I understand what you guys are saying, but I am very much of the mind that, my dollars count when it comes to influencing what is popular, I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it. And I want to support the things that I find value in, and things that I don't find value in, I'm not going to give money to, obviously. So I'm there, because like more so than like where some people are like, well, it's like, this is we have to take a social stand against this, and this, that, or the other. It's like, turning it into that kind of issue. It's like, no, let's support the things that are good. Let's not support the things that are bad.
The things that are good are getting increasingly fewer and far between.
Yeah, that I agree on.
Yeah, I think, part of that though is I think there's just so much fucking noise.
Yeah,
it's hard to find, but seeing that is like the fucking, we live in an age of an embarrassment of wealth. There is just an embarrassment of beautiful things in front of us that we can't take all in. And there's all this stuff, there's all this noise of all this terrible stuff that's, being pushed in our face at the same time, because we're just, an embarrassment of riches, basically, is what I was trying to say. Like, in trying to figure out what is good and what is bad among this never ending stream of art and creativity and film and music and video games and this, that, and the other is so fucking hard. And that's why, like, going back to Total Biscuit, he was one of those forces that was trying like hell to kind of cut through a lot of that clutter. And props to him, because he did a damn good job of it, while he was around. And there's just not enough voices like that, because everything is influenced by money. And he was one of the few people that I would say is like, I don't want to, paint him as a fucking saint, but it seemed like during his career, his motivation was altruistic at its core. Whereas most people like Kotaku and BuzzFeed and Polygon and fucking all these other shitbags all they care about is fucking money. They don't care about actually doing anything worth a fucking goddamn, and they just create more of a garbage plug in the sewer line, or in the feeder line, basically, of, you know, trying to get through the bad shit to get to the good. They just reinforce just whoever's paying them more money. So it's I think it's just, there's too much information, and, you know, that sounds dumb because how could there be too much? But we're seeing it now. There's too much information. It's too much shit happening all the time, every minute, 24 hours a day. All
right. Well, I think we'll leave this one there until the end of the year. This has been a fun little conversation, hasn't it?
Oh, indeed. Thanks for having me, man.
All right. Hopefully we'll be back for the end of the year to catch up with any other things that have been released this year. But for now, thanks to Peter, Scott, and Wombat for joining me. This has been episode 11 of Creators Talking. And hopefully we'll see you guys at the end of the year. Take care for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Woo! Cut.